"You're heavier than you look." That was the first thing he ever said to me. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm so sorry." Just that. A cold, flat statement, delivered with an unnerving stillness as his hands gripped my arms, keeping me from collapsing onto the polished concrete floor. The world had just tilted on its axis. One moment, I was navigating the crowded Sunday afternoon buzz of the grind, a ridiculously overpriced coffee shop, clutching a small, perfect cake box like it was the Holy Grail. The next, a collision, a hard shoulder against mine. I remember the sickening lurch in my stomach, the feeling of my ankle twisting, the frantic, useless scramble to keep my balance, and the cake. Oh God, the cake. It lay between us now, a tragic, beautiful mess on the floor, a smear of raspberry cream and shattered vanilla sponge. The delicate, hand-piped cursive spelling out his name, Leo, was now an unreadable, pathetic smudge. My right heel was buried deep in its heart. All I could do was stare at the wreckage of the cake, the wreckage of my meticulously planned evening, the wreckage of the entire last year of my life, all culminating in this one perfect, romantic gesture, now trampled under my own shoe. And the man holding me upright, his face was all sharp angles and shadows, his eyes a shade of gray that felt like a winter storm. Handsome, in that severe, intimidating way you see in black and white movies. But his words, they had been like a slap. I finally found my voice, yanking myself free from his grip. The warmth of his hands lingered on my skin for a split second. A strange, unwanted ghost. "Excuse me, you're heavy," he repeated. Not unkindly, but not kindly either. Just factually. He glanced down at the destroyed cake, then back at me. A flicker of something amusement, pity, crossed his face before it vanished. "And you've made a mess." That's when the rage, hot and sharp, sliced through the fog of my humiliation. "A mess you caused. You walked right into me. You should be the one apologizing, not insulting my weight." He raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "I was merely making an observation, and I did prevent you from falling. A thank you might be in order, but I suppose manners are optional when you're busy destroying perfectly good pastry." This man, this insufferable, beautiful, arrogant man was standing here, lecturing me, while my grand romantic confession lay in ruins at my feet. The confession I'd spent a full year building up the courage for. You see, for 365 days, my life had been a quiet, predictable rhythm. I'm Audrey. I'm 27. I'm a loan analyst at Viridian Trust Bank. A good job, a quiet apartment, a life so stable it bordered on, well, boring. The only real drama was my mother's nightly phone calls, each one a not-so-subtle interrogation about my romantic prospects. She was terrified I would die alone, a fear she voiced with the frequency of a weather forecast. "All my friends have grandchildren, Audrey, grandchildren." I wasn't entirely alone, of course. Not in my heart. In my heart, there was Leo. Leo, my team lead, 2 years my senior. He had a smile that could melt glaciers, and a kind, patient way of explaining complex financial models that made my chest ache. For a year, I'd loved him in silence. I'd learned his coffee order, black, 2 sugars. Noticed the way he ran a hand through his hair when he was stressed, and cherished every brief, professional interaction we had. I'd been dropping hints, little breadcrumbs of interest, hoping he would pick them up. A lingering look here, a shared laugh there, green lights everywhere. But a year had passed, and he'd remained professionally friendly, and I couldn't wait any longer. I was terrified some other woman, someone bolder and quicker than me, would swoop in and steal him away. So, I decided to take matters into my own hands. The mountain wasn't coming to Muhammad, so Muhammad was going to rent a bulldozer and drive right up that damn mountain. My best friend, Chloe, who worked in the same department, had been my cheerleader. We'd talked it over during a lunch break, huddled in a corner booth. I'm going to do it, Chloe. I'm going to ask him out and tell him how you feel. The whole 9 yards. She thought for a moment, tapping her acrylic nails on her phone screen. Honestly, good for you. What's the worst that can happen? He says no. You get your answer. You stop wasting your time wondering. He says yes. And, well, I expect a very nice dinner for my role as your spiritual advisor. But isn't it desperate? The girl asking the guy? She'd rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Audrey, this isn't a Jane Austen novel. It's 2023. Who asks who doesn't matter. What matters is that it's the right person and the right time. So I did it. I messaged him, my heart hammering against my ribs. Hey Leo, free for a coffee Sunday evening? His reply came almost instantly. Sure, sounds good. The grind at 7. I literally jumped out of my chair. I'd spared no expense. The cake was from a boutique bakery, his face expertly printed on the icing. Tucked in my purse was a gift, a classic, elegant timepiece that cost me $1,600, a significant chunk of my savings. It was a gesture that said, I see you, I value you, I am serious about this. But now my gesture was a sticky puddle on the floor, and this stranger, this catalyst of my disaster, was still standing there, watching me. He finally seemed to take pity on me. He sighed, a sound that was surprisingly gentle. Look, you seem to be having a complicated day. You have no idea, I muttered, trying to scrape the cream off my shoe with a napkin. I think you might have bigger problems. Bigger problems than what? I snapped, looking up at him, ready for another insult. He didn't say anything. He just smiled, a small, infuriating, crooked smile. Then he glanced down at my foot again. I followed his gaze, and my heart stopped. My entire shoe, my entire foot, was covered in the remnants of Leo's face. The printed icing had transferred perfectly onto the black leather. I was literally standing on the man of my dreams. A choked, horrified sound escaped my lips. I clapped my hands over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. My cake. My beautiful, perfect, romantic cake. I looked up to tell the stranger off again, to blame him, to vent all my frustration on him, but he was already walking away. He gave me one last look over his shoulder, that maddening little smile still playing on his lips, before disappearing into the crowd. Jerk, I whispered to his retreating back. Weirdo, handsome, but a total weirdo. Shaking, I salvaged what I could. I threw the boxed remains of the cake into the trash and limped to the restroom to clean my shoe and my dignity. I kept telling myself it was okay. The cake was just a prop. The real gift, the watch, was still safe. That's what mattered. I found a quiet corner table just as Leo walked in. He was wearing a crisp white shirt, his hair perfectly styled, that glacier-melting smile directed right at me. For a moment, my heart soared, and the disaster faded away. Audrey, have you been waiting long? He asked, sliding into the chair opposite me. No, not at all. I just got here. I lied. We made small talk for a few minutes. The weather, a difficult client at work, the usual. My hand kept straying to the gift box in my purse, my palms sweating. Just say it, Audrey. Just tell him. Then he leaned forward, his expression turning serious. So, Audrey, you said you wanted to talk about something? Yes, I stammered, my courage failing me. But, You can go first, if you want. No, ladies first, he said with a charming grin. Please, I insisted. I'm curious. He took a sip of his coffee. His eyes lit up in a way I'd never seen before. A genuine, unreserved joy that made him even more handsome. And it wasn't for me. Okay, well, I actually wanted to ask your advice about something. It's about Chloe. My blood ran cold. Chloe. Our Chloe? Yeah, he said, a bashful smile spreading across his face. Her birthday is coming up, and I want to get her something really special. I was wondering, what does she like? Perfume, handbags, jewelry. You know her best. The world tilted again, but this time, it just kept spinning. Every word he said was another nail in the coffin of my year-long dream. The way he said her name, the hopeful, happy glint in his eyes. It was unmistakable. Have you ever felt a heartbreak so deep, so sudden, that it feels like the physical world is dissolving around you? That's what it was like. It was the crushing realization that the entire story I had written in my head was a fantasy. He wasn't just not interested in me. He was in love with my best friend. My hand, which had been clutching the watch box in my purse, went numb. $1,600 of misplaced hope. Leo, I managed to say, my voice a strangled whisper. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you like Chloe? He didn't hesitate. He looked me straight in the eye, his face beaming. I don't just like her, Audrey. I'm in love with her. And just like that, my one-sided love story was over. It hadn't just been rejected. It had been declared dead on arrival without ever having a chance to breathe. I hadn't even gotten the chance to confess. All I could do was sit there, the ghost of raspberry cream still on my ankle, and smile, a brittle, fake smile. Oh, wow. That's wonderful, Leo. My heart was shattering into a million pieces, and he couldn't even see the dust. So, he said, leaning in conspiratorially, about that gift. Somehow, I got through it. I told him what perfume Chloe wore. I told him her favorite brands. I became the architect of their happiness, all while my own was collapsing around me. So what was it you wanted to talk to me about? He asked finally. After meticulously taking notes on his phone, I forced a laugh. Oh, it was nothing. Just a stupid question about the quarterly reports. But I figured it out on my way here. Don't worry about it. You sure? Positive, I said, standing up, my legs feeling like jelly. I actually have to run. Just remembered something I forgot to do. You have a good night, Leo. You too, Audrey. And thanks. You're a great friend. A great friend. That's what I was. I walked out of the coffee shop and into the cool night air, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. It was over. The man I loved was in love with my best friend, and there was nothing I could do but watch them be happy. The days that followed were a special kind of hell. They went public almost immediately. The whole office was buzzing with the news of the new power couple. I had to watch them bring each other coffee in the morning. I had to see him place a gentle hand on her back as they walked to a meeting. I had to endure Chloe telling me every single detail of their perfect dates, oblivious to the daggers she was plunging into my heart. During the day, I was the perfect friend. I smiled. I congratulated them. I acted strong. But at night, alone in my apartment, I'd cry until my pillow was soaked, and there were no tears left. A month went by. The pain didn't fade. It just unsettled. A dull, constant ache in my chest. I couldn't escape it. Every corner of the office was a reminder of what I couldn't have. That's when I found a new way to cope. Just a few blocks from my apartment was a bar. Not just any bar. The Alchemist's Reserve. It was a dark, moody place with leather armchairs and a whiskey collection that was rumored to be the best in the city. It was a place for the rich, the powerful, the people who could drop $1,000 on a bottle of scotch without flinching. I made a decent salary, but I was out of my league there. I didn't care. Money didn't matter anymore. My savings, the money I'd been carefully putting away for a future that now seemed empty, could be put to better use. Forgetting Leo. So I went. Night after night. I sat alone at a small table in the back, ordering expensive, smoky liquors that burned their way down my throat. I wanted to burn his image out of my mind, but it wasn't working. The more I drank, the sadder I became. The alcohol didn't numb the pain, it magnified it, turning my grief into a raw, screaming wound. Another one. I slurred to the waitress, pushing my empty glass forward. Make it a double. I was lost in my own miserable world. I had no idea that on the 3rd floor of that very building, in a sleek, minimalist office overlooking the city, my life was about to take another violent, unpredictable turn. Upstairs, the owner of the bar was getting a report from his manager. The shipment is confirmed for 11 p.m. Sir, the manager said, standing respectfully. We can have the team handle intake, or will you be overseeing it personally? I'll go myself, the owner replied, his voice a low, calm baritone. Very good. And there was a minor issue at the bar on 1. A woman, drinking heavily, unable to pay. We've resolved it, but... And the other locations? 9 and 10. All preparations for the grand openings are complete, sir. We're just waiting on your final approval. Good. I'll review the reports and let you know. There is one other thing, sir, the manager said, hesitating. I'm not sure how to. Spit it out, Marco. Don't waste my time. It's about Miss Isabel, sir. She's in Cabo, with another man. Our people there sent photos. They checked into a hotel together. He slid a discreet envelope across the polished desk. She called an hour ago. Said she was on set, filming. The owner didn't even glance at the photos. A muscle in his jaw twitched. That was the only sign of any emotion. Does she think I'm a fool? The manager muttered. Filming what, exactly? Let me send some of the boys down there to have a chat with this guy. No, the owner said, his voice dangerously quiet. Leave them be. Let them have their fun. It's cleaner this way. As you wish, sir. The owner was Damien, 32 years old, the man behind a sprawling empire of exclusive bars and boutique hotels, a man who had built everything from nothing, a man whose beautiful, famous girlfriend, the model and actress Isabel, cheated on him every chance she got. He let her. He had to. 6 years ago, her father, Damien's mentor, the man who had pulled him out of poverty and treated him like a son, lay dying in a hospital bed. His last wish, his last desperate plea, was for Damien to take care of his only daughter. Promise me, Damien. Promise you'll marry her, protect her. Damien had promised. How could he not? But the promise had become a prison. Isabel's fame had changed her, her infidelity chipping away at any affection he might have once felt. Now, there was nothing left. He tolerated her because of his debt to her father, but he had no intention of ever making her his wife. Her affairs were, in a strange way, his ticket out. He dismissed his manager and headed downstairs. As he passed through the main bar, he saw a woman slumped over a table, her head resting on her arms. He recognized the unruly brown hair immediately. He gestured to a nearby bartender. Is she passed out? Pretty much, Mr. Damien. She's been here for hours. We tried to wake her, but nothing, and she hasn't paid her tab. Put it on my account, Damien said, his eyes fixed on me. and get her out of here before she throws up on the upholstery. Just as 2 bouncers approached, I stirred. I lifted my head, the room spinning violently. My eyes struggled to focus on the tall, imposing figure in front of me. "You," I mumbled, my voice thick. "You're kicking me out? After all the money I spent here? You're drunk." "It's time to go home," he said, his voice that same infuriatingly calm tone from the coffee shop. I tried to stand up, to give him a piece of my mind, but my legs betrayed me. I stumbled, lurching forward, and would have hit the floor if he hadn't caught me again. His arms wrapped around me, strong and steady, and as he pulled me upright, my face just inches from his, I finally recognized him, the handsome jerk from the grind. Well, he said, a slow smile spreading across his lips. "Look what we have here. Fate, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor," but I was too drunk to register his face for long. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I gagged, pressing a hand to my mouth. Panic flashed in his eyes for the first time. The thought of me vomiting on his expensive Persian rug was apparently more alarming than anything else. He quickly half-dragged, half-carried me towards the restrooms, shoving me into the men's room because it was closer. I collapsed in front of a toilet, the world heaving around me. After a moment, he reappeared, holding out a handful of paper towels. "Here," he said, his voice softer now. "Clean yourself up." I did, my body trembling. And then the tears came, the ugly, racking sobs I'd been holding back all night. The pain of Leo, of Chloe, of my whole pathetic life came pouring out of me. "It hurts so much," I cried, not to him, but to the universe. "Why does it hurt so much?" He stood in the doorway, watching me, an unreadable expression on his face. "Heartbreak?" he asked quietly. I just kept crying. He sighed. "Come on, get up. You can't stay here." He pulled me to my feet. "Go home, and stop crying in my bar. It's bad for business." But as I looked at him through my tear-blurred vision, something strange happened. The alcohol and the grief played a trick on my mind. His sharp features softened. His dark hair seemed to lighten. His stormy gray eyes warmed into a familiar, gentle brown. In my drunken haze, Damien transformed into Leo. "Leo," I whispered, my hand reaching out to touch his face. "What are you doing here?" He let out a long, weary sigh. "You're completely gone, aren't you?" "I'm Damien, not Leo. Open your eyes." But I couldn't. My mind was stuck in its own fantasy. "Leo," I said again, my voice breaking. I threw my arms around his neck, burying my face in his chest. "It's you. I love you so much, Leo. Why didn't you choose me? Am I not as good as her? It hurts. My heart is broken." Damien just stood there, stiff and awkward, as I clung to him. "Women and alcohol," he muttered to himself. A terrifying combination. He tried to gently pry me off him. "Listen to me. You need to sober up. I'm not who you think I am." But I wasn't listening. I was lost. I pulled his head down and kissed him. A desperate, sloppy, searching kiss. He was so startled that he didn't react for a second. And in that second, I pressed myself against him, pouring all my unrequited love, all my pain and longing, into that one mistaken, tragic kiss. He finally pushed me away, holding me at arm's length. His eyes were wide, a mixture of shock and something else. Something I couldn't decipher. He knew he couldn't just throw me out on the street like this. I was a danger to myself. With another heavy sigh, he scooped me up into his arms and carried me upstairs, to his private apartment above the bar. He laid me down on a large plush bed. "Sleep it off," he said, his voice gruff. "You can go home in the morning." He turned to leave, but I reached out and grabbed his hand, my grip surprisingly strong. "Leo," I whispered, my eyes hazy with drink and desire. "Don't go. Stay with me, just for tonight. Please." I pulled him down onto the bed with me. I climbed on top of him, my gaze locked on his. "I love you, Leo. I want to be with you." Damien was frozen. He had never been in a situation like this. He'd never been mistaken for someone else, never been the object of such raw, misplaced desperation. He was about to tell me, once and for all, that he wasn't Leo. But as he looked into my eyes, something shifted. He'd had a few drinks himself. He was lonely, and there was something about me. Something about this wild, broken, fascinating woman who had literally fallen into his life twice now, that intrigued him more than he wanted to admit. He saw the invitation in my eyes, the reckless abandon. "You're playing with fire," he warned, his voice a low growl. "Let me go, now, before I do something we'll both regret." But I just wrapped my arms tighter around his neck. "I want this, Leo, just for tonight. Then I'll disappear. I'll quit my job. You'll never have to see me again. I promise." "You really want this?" he asked, his voice strained. I didn't answer with words. I just kissed him again, and this time, he didn't pull away. It was a collision of two broken people, a woman drowning in a love that wasn't hers, and a man starved of a love he could never have. A night fueled by whiskey, mistaken identity, and profound, aching loneliness. The next morning, at 9 o'clock, I woke up. The first thing I registered was the headache, a dull, throbbing drumbeat behind my eyes. The second was the light, a sliver of harsh morning sun cutting through a gap in heavy, unfamiliar curtains. And the third was the sheets. They weren't mine. They were too smooth, too crisp, with a thread count that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I forced my eyes open. I was in a bedroom, but it wasn't my bedroom. It was a vast, minimalist space decorated in shades of charcoal and steel. A man's room, an expensive man's room, and I was naked. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. It wasn't a slow crawl, it was an ambush. My breath caught in my throat. My heart started hammering a frantic, terrified rhythm against my ribs. What happened? Where am I? My memories were a foggy, disjointed mess. The bar, the whiskey, crying in the bathroom, a man's face. Leo? No, not Leo. Someone else. The man from the coffee shop, Damien. Oh God. I scrambled into a sitting position, pulling the luxurious duvet up to my chin. My body ached in places it shouldn't. A deep, unfamiliar soreness that made my stomach churn with a fresh wave of nausea and shame. I looked around the room, desperate for answers. My dress was neatly folded over a leather armchair. My underwear lay beside it, as if someone had tidied up the evidence of my complete and utter unraveling. I felt a surge of self-loathing so intense it was dizzying. I had always been so careful. I didn't do one-night stands. I didn't get blackout drunk. I was Audrey, the reliable loan analyst, the sensible one, the one who planned everything. And last night, I hadn't planned anything. I had lost control, completely. I had given a part of myself to a stranger, not in an act of passion, but in a fog of whiskey-soaked grief. Who was I? Who had I become? My eyes landed on the nightstand. There was a framed photograph of him, the man, Damien. It was a professional shot, him in a sharp suit, looking impossibly confident, those stormy gray eyes staring right through the camera. He was even more handsome than I remembered, and it just made me feel worse. Beside the photo was a small, folded piece of paper. With a trembling hand, I reached for it. His handwriting was strong and angular, just like him. Had to run. We'll see each other again. D. That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just a cocky, confident promise that this nightmare wasn't over. A sob escaped my lips. I had to get out of there. Now. Before he came back, before anyone saw me, I scrambled out of bed, my muscles protesting. I dressed faster than I ever had in my life, my fingers fumbling with the zipper on my dress. I didn't even bother looking in the mirror. I couldn't bear to see the face of the woman I had become. Shoes in hand, I crept to the bedroom door and eased it open. I was in a large, silent apartment. I tiptoed through the living room, my heart in my throat, and finally reached the front door. I was just about to turn the handle when I heard a sound from downstairs. The faint clatter of dishes. The bar. Of course. This was his apartment above the bar. My escape plan changed. I couldn't walk out the front door. I had to sneak out the back. I found a service staircase and crept down, each step a thunderclap in the morning silence. I emerged into the main bar area. It was empty, save for one employee polishing glasses behind the bar. I held my breath, ducking behind a row of booths, my back pressed against the cool leather. I was almost at the emergency exit when his voice cut through the quiet. "Ma'am, can I help you?" I froze, turning slowly. It was the young bartender from last night. He gave me a polite, professional smile. "You're up early." I forced a weak smile back. Yeah, I have to get to work. I was just leaving." "Of course. Let me just get you the bill for last night." "Oh, right," I said, my mind racing. I was about to reach for my purse when two other men walked in through the front doors. They were large, dressed in dark suits, and moved with a quiet efficiency that was unnerving. They looked less like bouncers and more like Secret Service agents. The one in the lead, a man with a shaved head and a grim expression, spotted me. His eyes did a quick, dismissive scan before he addressed the bartender. "Titus." Mr. Damien said not to charge her. Titus looked surprised. "Oh, yes, sir. My mistake." The man named Titus then turned his gaze to me. It was no longer dismissive. It was focused, intense. "Mr. Damien had to step out for a meeting," he said, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "He asked that you wait for him here. He'll be back shortly." My blood ran cold. "Wait for him? No way. I can't," I said, my voice shaking slightly. I have to go. I'll be late for work." "We've already taken the liberty of calling your manager," he said, without blinking. "You have the day off. Please, have a seat. Can we get you some coffee? Breakfast?" He was trying to trap me. This powerful, arrogant man had arranged my life without my permission, and now his soldiers were here to keep me in a cage. The panic I'd felt waking up came roaring back, 10 times stronger. This wasn't a request. It was a command, and my only instinct was to run. "No, thank you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not hungry, and I really have to go." Before they could react, I bolted. I shoved past them and burst through the front doors into the morning light, not even stopping to put on my heels. I just ran, barefoot on the cold city pavement. "Ma'am, stop." I heard their footsteps pounding behind me, their shouts echoing in the street. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, fueled by pure adrenaline and terror. My lungs burned, my side ached, but I kept going, weaving through startled pedestrians, my only thought to get away, to disappear. They were gaining on me. I could hear their heavy breathing getting closer. Desperate, I saw an alleyway. On the side was a row of large commercial dumpsters. Without thinking, I wrenched open the lid of one and scrambled inside, pulling the heavy plastic lid down over my head. Darkness. The overwhelming stench of stale beer and rotting food filled my nostrils, making me gag. I huddled in the filth, my body trembling, listening to the sound of my own ragged breaths. A few seconds later, I heard them run past the mouth of the alley. Where did she go? Damn it! She couldn't have gotten far. You check that way, I'll check this way. The boss is going to kill us. Their footsteps faded. I waited, my heart pounding, for what felt like an eternity. Finally, when the silence stretched on, I pushed the lid open and peered out. The coast was clear. Climbing out of the dumpster, covered in grime and smelling like a landfill, I hailed the first taxi I saw. I gave the driver my address, sank into the back seat, and finally let the tears of shame and fear fall. When the taxi pulled up to my quiet suburban street, I saw my father out front, watering his prize-winning roses. He looked up, saw me climbing out of the cab, looking like I'd been through a war, and his face fell. He rushed to the gate. Audrey, my God, what happened to you? He whispered, ushering me quickly toward the house. Quick, go around the back. Your mother, she's on a warpath. I didn't need to ask why. From inside the house, I could hear her voice, loud and furious. Where is that girl? Out all night. Doesn't even bother to call. When she gets her face back here, I swear to God, Robert, I will ground her. I don't care if she's 27. I will take her car keys and her credit cards. I slipped in through the back door and hid in the laundry room, my heart sinking even lower. Now, Helen, calm down, I heard my dad say, his voice placating. I'm sure there's a good explanation. What possible explanation is there for not coming home? And look at the time. It's almost 10 in the morning. What was she doing? Robbing a bank. And then, in a moment of sheer, desperate genius, my father saved me and doomed me all at the same time. She was with her boyfriend. He blurted out. There was a sudden, deafening silence from the living room. Her. What? My mother's voice was a stunned whisper. Her boyfriend, my dad repeated, gaining confidence. She called me last night, but I forgot to tell you. My mistake. She said she was on a date. I could practically hear the gears turning in my mother's head, her rage instantly evaporating and being replaced by something far more terrifying. Excitement. She has a boyfriend. Robert, are you serious? She finally has a boyfriend. Oh, thank the heavens. The saints have answered my prayers. Do we know him? What's his name? Is he handsome? Does he have a good job? When do we get to meet him? I didn't get all the details, my dad stammered. But she said he's tall and handsome. Oh, this is wonderful. I have to go to the store. We need to stock the fridge. What if he comes over for dinner? I'll get the good steaks. Robert, you start cleaning the living room. I'll go to the market. As my mother bustled out the front door on her new, all-important mission, I emerged from the laundry room. I stared at my father, a mixture of gratitude and pure exasperation on my face. Dad, what did you just do? He just shrugged, a helpless look in his eyes. It was either that or let her kill you. Just play along for a little while, okay? We'll figure it out. I knew he was wrong. This wasn't a solution. It was a new, much more complicated problem. But I was too exhausted to argue. I trudged up to my room, stripped off my filthy dress, and stepped into the shower. I turned the water on as hot as I could stand it, scrubbing my skin raw, as if I could wash away the events of the last 12 hours. The smell of the dumpster, the taste of cheap whiskey, the feel of a stranger's hands on my body. The water sluiced over me, but I didn't feel clean. I felt stained. I leaned my head against the cool tiles, the water mixing with fresh tears, and I wondered how on earth my life had spun so completely out of control. Just a few days ago, my biggest problem was figuring out how to confess my love to the man of my dreams. Now, I'd slept with a dangerous stranger, been chased through the city by his henchmen, hidden in a dumpster, and was now the proud owner of a completely imaginary boyfriend. And I had a sinking feeling that this was only the beginning. The lie, once born, took on a life of its own. It grew roots, sprouted branches, and quickly became an invasive species in the carefully cultivated garden of my life. My father's desperate improvisation had bought me a temporary reprieve, but it had also unleashed a force of nature I was wholly unprepared for. My mother on a mission, the mission to meet her future son-in-law. The next morning, the assault began. At 5:30, not 5:31, or 5:29, precisely 5:30, a time I previously believed was purely theoretical, a myth whispered about by farmers and bakers. Bam, bam, bam. The sound rattled my bedroom door, yanking me from a restless sleep. It wasn't a knock, it was a summons, the kind that usually precedes a SWAT team raid. "Audrey, get up, rise and shine," I groaned, pulling the pillow over my head. "Mom, it's 5:30. The sun isn't even up. The early bird gets the worm, darling, and we have a lot of work to do. Open this door right now, or I'm getting the spare key." I knew this wasn't an idle threat. My mother had a collection of spare keys to every door in the house, a fact she wielded with the authority of a medieval jailer. I had already replaced my bedroom lock 6 times in the last 5 years. It was a pointless, expensive act of rebellion. Sighing, I dragged myself out of bed and stumbled to the door, cracking it open. She stood there, already dressed in vibrant pink workout gear, radiating an amount of energy that felt obscene at this hour. "What is it?" I mumbled, my voice thick with sleep. "We're going for a run," she announced, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. I stared at her, dumbfounded. Run? Mom, I don't run. I walk briskly to the fridge. That's my cardio. Nonsense. A woman needs to stay in shape for her man. You've been letting yourself go, Audrey. We can't have my future son-in-law thinking he's dating a slob. From now on, 5:30 every morning, you and me, hitting the pavement. It's good for the body, good for the soul, builds character. Now go brush your teeth, chop chop. And so, I found myself shuffling down our quiet suburban street in the pre-dawn gloom, my mother power-walking beside me, providing a running commentary that was far more exhausting than the actual exercise. "So," she began, her voice a cheerful drill sergeant's bark. "This boyfriend, when do I get to meet him?" "Mom, it's new. We're taking things slow." "Slow? Audrey, you're 27. The time for slow was a decade ago. Now is the time for action. What about the boy your father told me about? The one you were on a date with the other night?" My mind went blank. The lie was still so new, so flimsy. I needed a backstory, and I needed it fast. "Oh, him," I said, trying to sound casual. He jumped off a bridge." My mother stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes widened in genuine horror. "He what?" "Yeah," I said, warming to my tragic, ridiculous story. "His company went bankrupt. He was drowning in debt. It was very sudden, very sad." I shook my head mournfully. I guess my love just wasn't enough to save him. I thought this would buy me some sympathy, some time. I was wrong. My mother's horror quickly morphed into a different kind of concern. "Oh, you poor thing," she said, clutching my arm. "You have a black widow's curse. All these years, not a single man, and the moment you find one, he dies tragically. We need to see someone about this. I know a woman, Mrs. Gable. She reads auras. Maybe your aura is too pointy. It's scaring the men away. Or killing them. Mom, my aura is not pointy. I sighed, resisting the urge to bang my head against the nearest lamppost. And I'm only 27. It's not like I'm some ancient spinster. 27 is not 17, Audrey. Look at your cousin Jessica. She has 3 kids and a picket fence. Her boyfriends used to line up around the block. You don't even have one person in the queue. It's embarrassing. She whacked me on the back of the head. Not hard, but enough to make my point. Ow! Mom, stop hitting me. You'll give me a concussion. I'll give you more than a concussion if you don't bring a man home soon. You think this is a joke. You turn your back for 1 second, and suddenly you're 40, and your eggs have dried up. And then what? Who's going to want you then? A dog? Maybe a cat? This was my life, a daily dose of emotional blackmail, served with a side of folksy, unscientific superstition. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it wouldn't stop until I produced a real, living, breathing boyfriend. The pressure was mounting at work too, not from my workload, but from the emotional minefield I had to navigate every day. The story of my fictional, deceased boyfriend had somehow made it back to Chloe, who was now treating me with a delicate, suffocating pity, which was almost worse than her oblivious happiness. Then, one afternoon, as I was trying to lose myself in a spreadsheet, they appeared. The 2 men from the bar, Titus and his silent partner. They strode into the hushed professional environment of Viridian Trust Bank like 2 wolves walking into a petting zoo. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared. They walked directly to my desk. Miss Audrey, Titus said, his voice as flat and unemotional as ever. I felt a jolt of pure fear. How did they find me? My heart started to race. The memory of hiding in the dumpster, the smell, the terror, it all came rushing back. I plastered on a professional smile. Can I help you? Mr. Damien has requested your presence. He sent us to collect you. Collect me? Like I was a package? The sheer arrogance of it made me furious. I'm sorry, but I'm working, I said, gesturing vaguely at my computer screen. I can't just leave. As I said before, we've already spoken to your manager, Titus replied, his expression unchanging. He has cleared your schedule for the remainder of the day. Please, come with us. This was insane. He was coercing me. My own boss was complicit in my kidnapping. This is harassment, I hissed, my voice low. The other man, who hadn't spoken a word, leaned in slightly. Ma'am, he said, his voice a low rumble. Please don't make this difficult. If we have to go back without you, people lose their jobs. We have families. Please, just come with us. He was manipulating me, but it was working. The thought of getting these 2 men fired, however much I disliked them, made my stomach clench, and a darker thought occurred to me. What would happen if I refused? Defeated, I stood up. Fine, I would go. I would meet this Damien, this arrogant puppeteer, and I would tell him, to his face, to leave me the hell alone. They drove me not to the bar, but to a place that made my jaw drop. It was a mansion, a sprawling modern fortress of glass and steel perched on a hill overlooking the city. It was the kind of house you see in magazines, the kind of place that screams new money and I own everything. Damien was waiting for me in the living room. He was sitting on a low, white leather sofa, looking out at the panoramic view. He was dressed casually, in dark jeans and a gray t-shirt that stretched across his broad chest, but he still radiated an aura of immense power. You're here, he said, without turning around. Your goons gave me no choice, I snapped, my anger simmering. What do you want? Say it fast. I don't have time for your games. He finally turned to look at me, and that small, crooked smile played on his lips. Sit down, Audrey. I remained standing, my arms crossed. He gestured to the coffee table in front of him. It was covered in an obscene display of luxury. Designer boxes from Chanel, Gucci, Prada, jewelry cases from Tiffany & Co., a rainbow of handbags, shoes, perfumes. It was a king's ransom of fashion. This is for you, he said, his tone casual, as if he were offering me a cup of tea. A welcoming gift. I stared at the mountain of merchandise, then back at him, my disbelief warring with my indignation. Are you trying to buy me? Is that it? You think you can sleep with a woman, have her chase through the streets, and then smooth it all over with a bunch of expensive crap. His smile faltered for a second. I chose everything myself, he said, a hint of defensiveness in his voice. I don't care. I don't want it. I don't want anything from you. What we had that night, it was a mistake, a drunken, stupid mistake, and I want to forget it ever happened. So, we're not dating? He asked, raising an eyebrow. The question was so absurd, so completely out of left field, that I could only stare at him. Dating? Are you insane? I don't even like you. He looked genuinely taken aback, as if this was a possibility that had never occurred to him. For a man who clearly got whatever he wanted, rejection was an unfamiliar concept. Why not? He asked, a flicker of real curiosity in his eyes. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? I laughed, a short, bitter sound. You're arrogant. You're controlling. You think your money can solve everything. You're not my type. He stood up and walked towards me, closing the space between us. He was taller than I'd realized, and I had to tilt my head back to look up at him. The fact that I bought you gifts, that makes you uncomfortable? He asked, his voice low. Most women would be thrilled. Well, I'm not most women, I shot back, holding my ground. And I'm not for sale. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to go home, and I would appreciate it if you never ever contacted me again. I turned to leave. Wait, he said, his voice stopping me in my tracks. What about what we did that night? Are you just going to pretend it didn't happen? The memory, the shame of it, washed over me again. I don't need you to take responsibility for me, I said, my voice shaking with fury. It was my mistake as much as yours. I was drunk, I was confused, I was stupid, and I will deal with it. So please, just let it go. Let me go. I walked out of that house without looking back, leaving him standing there amidst a fortune in unwanted gifts. I felt a strange sense of victory, of having stood up to this powerful, intimidating man. But as I walked down the long, winding driveway to find a taxi, a deep sense of unease settled over me. Damien wasn't a man who let things go. I had rejected him. I had wounded his pride, and I had a terrible feeling that, instead of ending things, I had just thrown down a challenge. And Damien struck me as the kind of man who never, ever backed down from a challenge. He was silent for a few moments after I left. Titus, who had been waiting discreetly in the hall, came back into the room. He looked at Damien, then at the pile of rejected gifts, his expression carefully neutral. Sir, are you all right? Damien didn't answer. He just stared at the door I had walked through. Then, a slow, genuine smile spread across his face. It was the first real smile Titus had seen on his boss in years. I'm fine, Titus, Damien said, his voice filled with a strange new energy. In fact, I'm better than fine. Should I have the items returned, sir? No, Damien said, his eyes gleaming. Leave them. She's interesting, isn't she? Sir? Audrey, he said, the name sounding foreign and familiar on his tongue. I think I've just found my future wife. Life, I was beginning to realize, had a cruel sense of irony. Just as I was extricating myself from one complicated emotional entanglement, another one was tightening its grip. I had rejected a millionaire's advances, but I still had to face the daily torture of watching the man I used to love be happy with my best friend. The office had become a stage for their romance, and I was a captive audience member with a front row seat. Every shared glance, every quiet laugh, every time he casually rested his hand on her shoulder, felt like a tiny paper cut on my already wounded heart. I tried to be happy for them, I really did, but grief is a selfish emotion. It doesn't care about what's fair or right. It only cares about its own aching emptiness. I made a conscious effort to avoid Leo. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. If I saw him waiting, I ate lunch at my desk. I found reasons to be busy with paperwork when he walked by. It was a cowardly strategy, but it was the only way I knew how to protect myself. One morning, the inevitable happened. We ended up alone in the elevator together. The doors slid shut, encasing us in a small, silent box. It was the first time we'd been truly alone since that disastrous night at the coffee shop. He cleared his throat. Audrey, he said, his voice gentle. Leo, I replied, my eyes fixed on the floor numbers lighting up above the door. An awkward silence stretched between us. So, how have you been? He finally asked. Good. Busy, I said, my voice clipped and overly bright. You? Yeah, good. Really good. I could feel his eyes on me, but I refused to look at him. I couldn't. If I saw the happiness in his face, the happiness that I wasn't the cause of, I thought I might break. Thankfully, the elevator dinged, and the doors opened on my floor. Well, this is me, I said, practically leaping out. Have a good one. I walked away without looking back, but I could feel his gaze following me down the hall. What I didn't see was Chloe, standing by the coffee machine, watching our entire interaction. Her expression, when I finally glanced up, was unreadable. It wasn't angry, not exactly. It was tight, suspicious. Later that morning, she came over to my desk. The rest of our team was in a meeting, so it was just the two of us. Hey, she said, leaning against the partition of my cubicle. Hey, I replied, not looking up from my screen. So, I saw you and Leo in the elevator this morning. Her tone was light, but there was an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. Yeah, we work in the same building. It happens. Right, it's just, you guys seemed a little tense. I finally looked at her. I don't know what you're talking about, Chloe. We were just making small talk. She wasn't buying it. Audrey, I know you're my friend, and I know Leo is my boyfriend. So you understand that if I see you two together, looking all secretive, it's going to make me wonder. The injustice of it stung. I had sacrificed my own feelings, stepped aside gracefully, and was actively trying to erase myself from his orbit. And she was accusing me of being secretive. Wonder about what? I asked, my voice colder than I intended. Chloe, he's your boyfriend. I get it. I'm happy for you. There is nothing secretive going on. We were in an elevator for 30 seconds. You're right, she said, backing down slightly. But the seed of doubt had been planted. I'm just, I'm crazy about him. The idea of anyone else, especially a friend. You have nothing to worry about from me, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. But she did. She just had the wrong target. She smiled then, but it didn't reach her eyes. I know. It's just, That guy you told me about. The one you were falling for. The one you were going to confess to that night. My blood ran cold. I know it was Leo, she said softly. The air left my lungs. The secret I had guarded so carefully, the one I had built a fortress of lies around, was out. She had known all along. I couldn't deny it. I just nodded, a wave of shame washing over me. It's true, I whispered. I liked him, but that was before I knew he was in love with you. The second I found out, I let it go. I swear, Chloe, I would never ever try to come between you two. I want to believe you, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But it's hard, knowing you see him every day, knowing you had feelings for him. It makes me feel insecure. So, what do you want me to do? I asked, my frustration mounting. Quit my job? Move to another country? I am doing everything I can to stay out of your way. I just want you to be honest with me, she said. And I want you to keep your distance. For my sake. Please. It was an unreasonable request. It was an accusation wrapped in the language of friendship. She was punishing me for feelings I no longer acted on, for a dream I had already buried. But I saw the fear in her eyes, the raw, possessive fear of a woman in love, and a part of me understood. So I lost him, and now I was losing her, too. The office, once a place of comfortable routine, became a prison of whispers and sideways glances. Chloe's insecurity manifested as a cold, polite distance. Our easy friendship, the one that had been my anchor, was gone, replaced by a strained formality. She was drawing a line in the sand, and I was on the wrong side of it. Love, I was learning, could make people selfish and cruel. It made them see threats where there were none. I was at my breaking point. The stress from my mother, the heartache over Leo, the loss of my friendship with Chloe. It was all becoming too much. I felt like I was suffocating. And then, just when I thought things couldn't possibly get any more complicated, Damien reappeared. He didn't send his henchmen this time. He came himself. He walked into the bank in the middle of a busy Tuesday afternoon, causing an even bigger stir than his men had. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than my car, and he moved with an easy confidence that drew every eye in the room. He was a shark in a fish tank. He walked straight to me, completely ignoring the stunned silence that had fallen over the office. I stood up, my face burning with a mixture of anger and humiliation. "What are you doing here?" I hissed, grabbing his arm and pulling him towards a small, empty conference room. "This is my workplace. You can't just show up here and make a scene." "I wasn't making a scene," he said, looking genuinely puzzled. "I came to visit you. I called you last night, but your phone went straight to voicemail. I turned it off, because I told you I wanted you to leave me alone. Why can't you understand that?" "I'm pursuing you," he said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. He then gestured to one of his assistants, who was trailing behind him, struggling under the weight of several large, insulated bags. "And I brought lunch. For you and your colleagues." The assistant began unloading a feast onto the conference table. Sushi platters, artisanal sandwiches, gourmet salads. Enough food to feed a small army. I stared at him, aghast. "Are you crazy? I don't want your food. I don't want you here. Take it all and go." "It's just lunch, Audrey," he said, his voice laced with amusement. "Don't be so dramatic. Besides, your father-in-law is the chief of police. I don't think he'd appreciate you calling them on his son's best friend for bringing you a sandwich." My brain short-circuited. Father-in-law? Chief of police? Best friend? I'm not following, I stammered. "You're forcing my hand, aren't you?" He sighed, a playful glint in his eye. "Fine. If you won't agree to let me take responsibility for you, then you'll have to take responsibility for me." "What are you talking about?" "You used me," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You had your way with me, and then you just threw me aside." "That's not very nice, Audrey." I was so flustered I couldn't even form a coherent sentence. I clapped my hand over his mouth. "Shh, be quiet. Do you want the entire office to hear you? Are you afraid they'll find out what a wildcat you are? That you lured me back to your lair and had your wicked way with me?" He whispered against my palm. "Stop it. You're insane. There's only one way to shut me up," he murmured, his eyes twinkling. "And what's that?" I asked, exasperated. "Do I have to stuff a sock in your mouth?" He leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear. "You could kiss me," he whispered. My first instinct was to slap him, to push him away and tell him exactly what I thought of his childish, manipulative games. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, Chloe. She was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, her face a mask of cold fury. She had clearly heard some of our exchange, and her imagination was filling in the blanks. And in that split second, a new, reckless idea took hold. Maybe this was the solution. Maybe this was how I could finally prove to Chloe and to myself that I was over Leo. If she saw me with someone else, someone powerful and handsome and clearly infatuated with me, she would have to believe me. She would have to let go of her jealousy. So, I didn't push him away. As Chloe watched, her eyes wide with shock, Damien cupped my face in his hands and kissed me. It wasn't like the desperate, drunken kiss from that first night. This was slow and deliberate and shockingly gentle. For a moment, I forgot we were in a bank conference room. I forgot about Chloe and Leo. I just felt. When he finally pulled away, Chloe was still standing there. "Audrey," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "What? What is going on?" I took a deep breath, stepping away from Damien, but staying close enough to present a united front. "Chloe," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "This is Damien, my boyfriend." The lie was out. The second, even bigger lie. The look on Chloe's face was a complicated mix of shock, relief, and something else. Maybe a hint of jealousy. "Boyfriend? You have a boyfriend. Since when?" "It's new," I said quickly. Damien, to his credit, played along seamlessly. He wrapped an arm around my waist and smiled a charming, possessive smile. "A pleasure to finally meet you, Chloe. Audrey's told me so much about you." "She has," Chloe said, looking from me to him and back again. "Wow. Well, congratulations, Audrey. I'm happy for you." I couldn't tell if she was being sincere or sarcastic, but for now, it didn't matter. The immediate threat had been neutralized. Damien stayed for another hour, charming my colleagues, making small talk with my manager, and generally acting like he owned the place. I was a wreck, my nerves frayed, my mind racing. What had I just done? I had taken a complicated situation and poured gasoline on it. By the time I got home that evening, exhausted and emotionally drained, I was ready to collapse. But as I pulled up to my house, my heart sank. There, parked in my driveway, was a sleek black sports car that screamed money. And sitting on my front porch, casually chatting with my mother as she offered him a plate of freshly baked cookies, was Damien. He looked up as I got out of my car and gave me a lazy, triumphant smile. "Honey, you're home," my mother called out, beaming. "Look who came to visit." I walked up the steps, my face a thundercloud. This man's audacity knew no bounds. He had tracked me down, again. "What? I gritted out through a clenched jaw. Are you doing at my house? Damien took a bite of a cookie. Your mom invited me for dinner. She makes a mean chocolate chip. Son, you're here. My mother cooed, completely oblivious to the tension. Come on, let's go inside. I grabbed Damien's arm, my nails digging into his bicep. We need to talk, now. I dragged him around to the side of the house, out of my mother's earshot. How dare you? I hissed. How did you even find out where I live? Are you stalking me? He had the nerve to look wounded. Your mother called me, said you wouldn't give her my number, so she did some maternal detective work. She's quite resourceful. My mother had gone through my phone while I was in the shower. I was going to kill her. This has to stop, I said, my voice trembling with rage. This whole boyfriend thing was a one-time deal, a performance for my friend. It's over. I don't think so, he said, his expression turning serious. Audrey, I'm not playing games. I told you, I'm pursuing you, and I don't give up easily, but I don't even like you. You will, he said with infuriating confidence. I'll grow on you, like a very handsome, very persistent fungus. He leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, a quick, soft peck. Give me a chance, he whispered. That's all I'm asking. Before I could protest, he was gone, walking back to the front porch where my mother was waiting. I stood there, stunned into silence. This man was relentless. He was infuriating. He was completely overwhelming. And the most terrifying part, for a split second, when he'd whispered in my ear, a tiny, traitorous part of me had actually considered it. My protestations were useless. Damien had an ally, and a formidable one at that. My mother. She had latched onto him with the tenacity of a barnacle on a ship's hull. He was the answer to her prayers, the walking, talking embodiment of all her hopes for my future. And so, against my will, he began to seep into the cracks of my life. I was in the kitchen, trying to have a quiet dinner, when my mother bustled in, her face flushed with excitement. Sweetheart, Damien is staying for dinner, she announced. I looked at him, sitting comfortably in my father's armchair, as if he'd been a part of the family for years. He can't, I said through gritted teeth. We don't have enough food. Nonsense, she chirped. I'll run out to the store. You two stay here and get to know each other better. She winked, a gesture so cringeworthy it made my skin crawl. And then she was gone, leaving me alone with him. The silence in the house was deafening. You need to leave, I said, my voice low and urgent. I can't, he replied, looking genuinely apologetic. Your mother was very insistent. I didn't want to be rude. You think showing up at my house uninvited isn't rude. You think manipulating my mother isn't rude. Look, he said, his playful demeanor finally dropping. He stood up and walked towards me, his expression serious. I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I like you, Audrey. Is that so hard to believe? Yes. We're from different worlds, Damien. Look at you. Look at me. This, whatever this is, it's never going to work. Why not? Because I have money. Because I live in a big house. Because you're you, and I'm me. I'm a lone analyst who lives with her parents. You're whatever it is you are. A crime boss, a secret agent. A genuine laugh escaped him. A warm, rich sound that took me by surprise. I own bars and hotels, Audrey. That's all. And I haven't been in a serious relationship in 5 years. Then I met you. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt something. A spark. Don't I at least deserve a chance to see where it goes? I didn't know what to say. He was being sincere, and it was disarming. All my anger, my carefully constructed walls, began to crumble. Maybe I had misjudged him. Just give me a chance, he repeated, his voice soft. Let me take you on a real date. Let me try to win you over. If, after that, you still want me to go, I'll walk away and you'll never hear from me again. I promise. I looked into his eyes, those stormy gray eyes that were now filled with a surprising vulnerability. I was tired of fighting, tired of being angry. I sighed, a long, slow release of breath. Fine, I said. One chance. His face broke into a brilliant smile, and in that moment, he looked boyish and almost sweet. Great, it's a date. He glanced around the kitchen. So, while we're waiting for your mom, you want to help me find the good silverware? As I hesitated, he suddenly said, Hey, could you do me a favor? Grab that bag out of the trunk of my car for me. Can't you get it yourself? I grumbled, but his expectant look wore me down. Fine, I said, rolling my eyes. I walked outside to his ridiculously expensive car and popped the trunk, and my breath caught in my throat. The trunk was filled with an enormous bouquet of red roses, so large it looked like it had been stolen from a float in a parade, and sitting next to it was a giant teddy bear, easily as tall as I was, with soft brown fur and big, soulful button eyes. A small, involuntary smile touched my lips. I couldn't help it. No one had ever done anything like this for me before. How did he know I had a weakness for giant stuffed animals? I felt a flutter in my chest, a tiny, tentative flicker of warmth. It was the first time I had felt anything other than grief or anger or frustration in weeks. I carried the flowers and wrestled the bear out of the trunk, staggering back into the house under the weight of it all. He was standing in the doorway, watching me, that crooked smile back on his face. Thank you, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You're smiling, he observed, looking pleased with himself. Does this mean I have a shot? I didn't answer. I just carried my new treasures up to my room. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad after all. He was complicated and infuriating, but he was also thoughtful. Just then, his phone rang. His expression changed instantly, the warmth vanishing, replaced by a cold, hard mask. I have to go, he said abruptly, his tone all business. Something came up, but what about dinner? I'm sorry, rain check. I'll call you tomorrow. And with that, he was gone, leaving me standing there with a giant teddy bear and a house that suddenly felt very empty. He drove straight to one of his warehouses on the industrial side of town. Down in the chilly concrete basement, 2 of his men were standing guard over another man who was tied to a chair, his face bruised and bloody. We got him, boss, Titus said, stepping aside. Damien walked slowly around the man in the chair, his eyes cold and devoid of emotion. Who sent you? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. The man spat a bloody wad onto the floor. Go to hell. Damien didn't flinch. He simply nodded to Titus. There was a flash of steel, and the man in the chair screamed as a knife was plunged into his thigh. I'll ask you one more time, Damien said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Who sent you? This was the other side of Damien, the side I hadn't seen. The ruthless businessman who protected his empire with an iron fist. The cold, calculating strategist who dealt with threats swiftly and without mercy. The man who, when he was with me, was just a man trying to win a girl's affection, but who, in his world, was a king defending his throne. He got the name of a rival who had tried to sabotage his latest shipment. Damien dealt with the situation with his usual chilling efficiency, and then went back to his office at the Alchemist's Reserve. He was pouring himself a much-needed whiskey when the door opened, Isabel. She had just returned from her filming trip to Cabo. She slinked into the room, a vision in a tight white dress, and wrapped her arms around his neck from behind. "Baby, I'm home," she purred, pressing a kiss to his cheek. "Did you miss me?" He gently removed her arms. "You're back. I didn't know you were coming today. I wanted to surprise you," she said, pouting. "Aren't you happy to see me?" "I'm happy," he said, his voice flat. "Are you hungry? I can take you out to eat." "Ooh, yes. Let's get seafood." "Fine. Go home and get changed. I'll meet you there after I finish up some work." She beamed, kissed him again, and sashayed out of the room. As soon as she was gone, Marco, his trusted manager, stepped inside. "Sir," Marco said, his expression troubled. "You're not even angry." "About what?" Damien asked, taking a sip of his whiskey. "About her and the guy in Cabo. This isn't the first time. Why do you let her get away with it?" Damien swirled the amber liquid in his glass, his eyes distant. "I made a promise to her father, Marco. A promise that I wouldn't hurt her, that I would protect her. But she's making a fool of you." "I know what she's doing," Damien said, a weary sigh in his voice. "And I understand it. I can't give her what she wants, what she needs. I don't love her, so she looks for it elsewhere. And every time she does, she gives me another reason why I can't marry her. Another piece of evidence that I can present to my own conscience and to the memory of her father that I tried, but it was impossible. It's better this way. For both of us, she gets her freedom, and eventually, so will I." Marco just shook his head, not understanding the complex web of guilt and obligation that trapped his boss. Later that night, Damien was asleep in his apartment when his bedroom door creaked open. Isabel slipped into the room and slid into bed beside him. She began to kiss his neck, her hands roaming over his chest. "I want you," she whispered. "I've missed you so much." He gently pushed her away and sat up, turning on the bedside lamp. The soft light illuminated the frustration on her face. "Isabel, go back to your own room," he said, his voice tired. "Why?" she demanded, her voice rising. "Why are you always like this? We've been together for 6 years, Damien, and you've never touched me. Not once. Are you gay? Is that it?" He ran a hand over his face, the picture of exhaustion. "I'm not gay, Isabel." "Then what is it? Why won't you sleep with me? I'm beautiful. Men desire me. But you look at me like I'm your sister. It's humiliating. It's why I do it, you know. It's why I'm with other men. Because you make me feel so unwanted." "I don't love you," he said, the words hanging in the air between them, cold and sharp and final. "I care about you. I will always protect you. But I don't love you. I see you as a sister. That's all." Her face crumpled, the tears she'd been holding back finally falling. "A sister. After all this time. Then why did you agree to marry me? Why did you promise my father? He was dying, Isabel. It was his last wish. I thought maybe, over time, feelings would grow. But they didn't. Not for me. And you were never here. You were always chasing your career, chasing other men. We grew apart before we were ever even together." She stared at him, her heart breaking. "So that's it? You're just giving up on us?" "There was never an us to give up on," he said, his voice softening. "I'm sorry." She fled the room, sobbing, and he was left alone in the silence, the weight of his promise heavier than ever. Isabel, unable to sleep, went downstairs to the kitchen to find the old housekeeper, Maria, who had been with her family since she was a child. "Maria," she said, her voice thick with tears. Can I ask you something? Maria put down the glass she was polishing and wrapped a comforting arm around Isabel's shoulders. Of course, mija. What is it? While I was away, did he bring anyone home? A woman. Maria hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly. There was one girl. A few weeks ago, he brought her up to his apartment, and a few days ago, he had many expensive gifts delivered for her. Isabel's blood ran cold. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. It wasn't just that he didn't love her. It was that he loved someone else. He's been seeing another woman, she whispered, the words like poison on her tongue. It seems so, Maria said gently. He seems very taken with her. A cold, hard fury began to replace Isabel's grief. So that's it, she seethed, her hands clenching into fists. He has a new toy, a little nobody to replace me. Fine, we'll just see about that. She had been hurt. She had been rejected. And now she wanted revenge. She didn't know who I was, but she was going to find out. And when she did, she was going to destroy me. While Isabel was plotting her revenge in a mansion on a hill, my own life was undergoing a seismic shift. I had agreed to give Damien a chance, and to my utter astonishment, I was starting to enjoy it. He was surprisingly normal and incredibly persistent. My mornings no longer started with my mother's drill sergeant routine. They started with a text from him. Morning, princess. Hope you slept well. The first time he called me that, I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly sprained something. But a secret, stupid part of me liked it. No one had ever called me princess before. It felt nice to be cherished, even by a man I wasn't sure I even liked yet. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he was chipping away at my defenses. There were flowers delivered to my office for no reason. A delivery from my favorite bakery would show up at my desk. A small note attached. Thought you might need a pick-me-up. D. He was relentless, but in a gentle, charming way. He never pushed too hard. He just made his presence known. A constant, warm background radiation in my life. I found myself checking my phone more often, a small thrill going through me whenever his name popped up on the screen. The constant ache in my chest over Leo was beginning to fade, replaced by a tentative, fluttering hope. I was starting to feel happy. One afternoon, I was at my desk, admiring a particularly beautiful box of macarons he had sent, when Sarah from accounting walked by. Ooh, those look amazing, she said, her eyes wide. She was in her late 40s, a notorious office gossip but generally good-natured. Want one? I offered. Don't mind if I do. She popped a pistachio one into her mouth. Her eyes lit up. Oh my God, these are from La Belle Vie. My husband only buys me these on our anniversary. This guy of yours must be serious. Before I could reply, she snatched the whole box. I'm just going to share these with the team, for morale. And she was gone, leaving me with a single, sad-looking vanilla macaron. I sighed. So much for savoring them. Sarah came back a few minutes later, the empty box in hand. She leaned in conspiratorially. So, what's the story with this guy? Is he the one who got you the bear? Because Brenda in HR saw it in your car, and the whole floor is talking. I felt my face flush. It's new. Well, he's a keeper. Hold on to this one, Audrey. A man who buys you $1,000 macarons doesn't come around every day. She patted my shoulder. I'm happy for you. It's about time you had some fun. Just as she walked away, Chloe entered the room. Her face was a storm cloud. She looked like she had just been in a fight and lost. Sarah, ever the diplomat, tried to smooth things over. Chloe, macaron, she asked, gesturing with the empty box. Oh wait, we ate them all, sorry. Chloe just glared at her, then at me. I'm not hungry. Whoa, okay, Sarah said, backing away slowly. Someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. Once Sarah was out of earshot, Chloe marched over to my desk. Leo and I broke up, she announced, her voice dripping with venom. I'm sure you're thrilled. My heart sank. Chloe, no. Why would you say that? What happened? What happened? She sneered. You happened, Audrey. Or more accurately, your ghost. He never got over you. This was getting ridiculous. That's not fair, Chloe, and you know it. This has nothing to do with me. Sarah, who had been lingering nearby, pretending to sort files, chimed in. Now, girls, let's not fight. Relationships are hard. I'm sure you two will work it out. We're not working it out, Chloe snapped. It's over. I'm giving him back to her, since she's clearly been waiting in the wings this whole time. The accusation, so baseless and cruel, finally made me snap. You know what, Chloe? I've had enough of this. I have bent over backwards to make you feel secure. I have avoided him, ignored him, and moved on with my own life. I have a boyfriend, a wonderful boyfriend who, by the way, treats me a hell of a lot better than Leo has been treating you. So, if your relationship failed, maybe you should look at the two people who were actually in it, instead of blaming me. We were practically shouting now. The entire office had gone silent, all eyes on us. It was a full-blown, primetime drama, and we were the stars. The friendship that had once been my greatest source of support was now a public spectacle of bitterness and resentment. The story of my secret, year-long crush on Leo was now common knowledge, courtesy of Chloe's well-aimed, venomous whispers to anyone who would listen. In the court of office opinion, I was the villain, the homewrecker, the snake in the grass. It was a nightmare. That evening, after work, I found Chloe packing up her desk. I knew I had to try one last time to fix things. Chloe, I said softly, can we talk? Please. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. She just nodded. We ended up at the same coffee shop where my heart had been broken just a few weeks earlier. It felt like a lifetime ago. We sat in silence for a long time, the ghosts of our former friendship hovering between us. Why did you break up? I finally asked. She sighed, stirring her untouched latte. We were always fighting. About you. Me? But why? I haven't done anything. I know, she admitted, her voice small. It was my insecurity. But there were things. He has pictures of you on his phone. From that company retreat last year. I asked him to delete them, and he refused. He said he was just keeping them as memories. But it felt like more. And then, the other night, he was supposed to take me to a movie, but he canceled. Said he was working late. I asked him where he'd been, who he was with. He wouldn't say. So, I asked him, is less than #0. 3# is greater than I asked him if he was with you. She looked up at me, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek, and he said yes. I was stunned. What? Chloe, that's a lie. I was with Damien, my boyfriend. Why would he say that? And the photos? The retreat? He took pictures of everyone, Chloe. He was the unofficial photographer. Why would he keep mine and not the others? That doesn't make any sense. I could see the confusion in her eyes. The story wasn't adding up. She was starting to realize that the villain she had constructed in her mind didn't exist. Chloe, I said, leaning forward, my voice earnest. I need you to hear me. I am over Leo. Completely. I have Damien now, and he is. Everything. He's kind and funny, and he treats me like I'm the only person in the world. He's so far out of Leo's league it's not even funny. You have to believe me. I am not a threat to you. I talked for a long time. I told her everything. About Damien's grand gestures, about the teddy bear, about how he made me feel. Slowly, painstakingly, I watched the anger and suspicion melt from her face, replaced by a dawning understanding. And then, regret. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. "I've been such an idiot." "We've both been a little crazy," I said, offering her a small smile. "I still love him, Audrey," she confessed, her voice breaking. "I don't want to lose him." "Do you want me to talk to him?" I offered. "Maybe I can. Clear the air, explain things." Her face lit up with a desperate hope. "Would you? Oh, Audrey, would you really do that for me?" "Of course," I said. "We're friends." It was the first time in weeks that word hadn't felt like a lie. We left the coffee shop on better terms. Our fractured friendship tentatively pieced back together. The next day, I made a point of going to lunch with Leo. I told Chloe beforehand, so she wouldn't get the wrong idea. It was time to clear the air, once and for all. We sat at a small bistro near the office. He was quiet, subdued. "So," I began, deciding to just dive in. "You and Chloe." He sighed, pushing his food around his plate. "We broke up." "I know," she told me. "Why, Leo?" "She's so jealous," he said, his voice full of frustration. "She was constantly accusing me, questioning me. It was exhausting. I couldn't take it anymore." "Well, can you blame her?" I countered. "You lied to her. You told her you were with me when you weren't, and you kept my pictures on your phone. What was she supposed to think?" He had the grace to look ashamed. "I know. That was stupid. I guess I didn't want to fight with her. Saying I was with you seemed like the easy way out." "Leo, there's no easy way out in a relationship. You have to be honest. You have to build trust. If you don't, it will fall apart. And that's what happened. She doesn't trust you because you haven't given her a reason to." I could see he was listening, really listening. "She's a good person, Leo, and she loves you, really loves you. Don't throw that away because you're too proud or too lazy to do the work. Think about it." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at me, a strange expression on his face. "You've changed, Audrey." "I have a boyfriend now," I said, a genuine smile spreading across my face. "He's taught me a lot about what a real relationship should look like." "Yeah, I heard," he said, a hint of something I couldn't quite decipher in his voice. "Regret? So, what about tonight? Are you free?" "For what?" "I have tickets to that new movie you wanted to see," I thought. "Maybe we could go?" I stared at him, my fork halfway to my mouth. Was he serious? After everything I had just said? "Leo," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Did you not hear a word I just said? I have a boyfriend. boyfriend. The guy I am in a committed, monogamous relationship with. The guy who would be very, very unhappy if he knew you were asking me out." "Right. Sorry," he said, though he didn't look very sorry. Just as I was about to lecture him further, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Titus. "Miss Audrey, I'm outside. Saw you with him. Sending photo to the boss now." Attached was a picture, taken from across the street, of me and Leo sitting at our table. He looked handsome and attentive. I looked happy and engaged. To an outsider, it looked exactly like a date. My blood ran cold. Damien was going to see this. He was going to think I was cheating on him. Just then, Leo reached across the table and took my hand. "Audrey," he said, his voice low and intense. "I made a mistake. It should have been you. I know you had feelings for me. And I have feelings for you too." I snatched my hand back as if I'd been burned. "Are you out of your mind? Leo, stop it. It's too late." "It's not too late," he insisted, his eyes pleading. "We can be together." "No, we can't. I don't love you anymore. How many times do I have to say it?" He just shook his head, a stubborn, determined look on his face. He thought I was lying, that I was just protecting Chloe's feelings. "Audrey, I'm not giving up on you," he said, and at that exact moment, a shadow fell over our table. I looked up, and my heart stopped. It was Damien, and he did not look happy. He wasn't alone. Titus and another man, both looking like they were carved from granite, stood a few feet behind him. Damien's presence filled the small bistro, sucking all the air out of the room. His face was a thundercloud, his gray eyes stormy and cold as he looked from me to Leo, his gaze finally settling on Leo's hand, which was still hovering in the space where mine had been. "Get your hand off my girlfriend." His voice was quiet, almost a whisper, but it carried a deadly weight that made the hairs on my arms stand up. Leo, oblivious to the danger he was in, just scoffed. "And who are you?" I scrambled to my feet, rushing to Damien's side, instinctively putting myself between the two men. "Damien, it's not what you think. We were just talking." He didn't look at me. His eyes were locked on Leo, a predator sizing up its prey. "I remember you," Damien said, a slow, chilling smile spreading across his lips. "You're Leo, the guy she mistook me for that first night. The reason she ended up in my bed." My face burned with humiliation. Leo's eyes widened in shock and confusion, finally registering the implication. "I'm sorry," I whispered to Damien, tugging on his arm. "Please, let's just go." He finally looked down at me, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. "We'll sort this out later," he murmured, for my ears only. Then he looked back at Leo. "Stay away from her. This is your only warning." He turned and strode out of the restaurant, his men falling into step behind him. I scurried after them, not daring to look back at the stunned, angry face of my former crush. As Damien's sleek black car pulled away from the curb, Leo stormed out of the bistro, his face a mask of fury. "Who the hell does that guy think he is?" he muttered to himself, heading towards the parking garage. "Threatening me? If Audrey wasn't there, I would have knocked him flat." He was so consumed by his own righteous anger that he didn't notice the two men who had detached themselves from the shadows of the garage and were now following him. He didn't hear their silent footsteps on the concrete behind him. He was just unlocking his sensible sedan when a hand clamped down on his shoulder, spinning him around. "What the?" He didn't get to finish the sentence. A fist crashed into his jaw, sending a blinding flash of pain through his skull. He staggered back against his car as the two men, Titus and his partner, closed in on him. They were skilled, efficient, and utterly brutal. Leo, who prided himself on his weekend boxing classes, didn't stand a chance. They moved with a synchronized violence, landing punch after punch to his face and ribs, never saying a word. He collapsed onto the ground, his body screaming in pain, the taste of blood filling his mouth. Titus leaned down, his face impassive. "This is a warning," he said, his voice a low growl. "Stay away from Miss Audrey. Next time, you won't be walking away. Understood?" Leo could only groan in response, his vision swimming. The two men straightened up, adjusted their suits, and walked away as silently as they had appeared, leaving him a broken, bleeding heap on the grimy floor of the parking garage. Back at the bank, I was a nervous wreck. I had no idea what had happened to Leo, but I knew Damien's temper. I sat at my desk, unable to concentrate, my mind replaying the scene at the restaurant over and over. A little while later, Sarah from accounting rushed into the room, her face pale. "Audrey, you're not going to believe this," she gasped. "It's Leo. Someone beat him up in the parking garage. He's a mess. Chloe's in the first aid room with him now." My heart plummeted. "Oh God, Damien." I rushed to the first aid room. Peeking through the small window in the door, I saw him. Leo was sitting on the edge of a cot, his face a swollen, purple mess. His lip was split, and one eye was already turning a deep shade of black. Chloe was dabbing at his cuts with an antiseptic wipe, her face a mixture of concern and pity. I backed away from the door, my stomach churning with guilt. This was my fault. I had dragged these people into Damien's dangerous world, and now they were paying the price. I went back to my desk and sat down, my body trembling. This had to stop. Inside the first aid room, Chloe was gently cleaning a cut above Leo's eye. "Who did this to you?" she asked softly. "Her new boyfriend," he mumbled through his swollen lips. "The guy from the restaurant." Chloe's hand stilled. "You're sure?" "He threatened me, and then his thugs jumped me in the garage. So, yeah, I'm sure." He looked at her, his one good eye pleading. "Chloe, he's dangerous. Audrey is in trouble. We have to help her." "Leo," she said, her voice tired. "She has a new boyfriend. You need to accept that and move on. You can't keep chasing her." "I don't believe she's over me," he insisted, his voice stubborn. "She's just saying that. I'm not giving up on her." Chloe sighed, a look of profound sadness on her face. "And what about me, Leo? What about my feelings?" "I told you," he said, his voice hardening. "We're not a good match. We can't keep doing this. So that's it? You're just throwing me away." "I didn't know Audrey liked me back then," he said, the words a cruel, unthinking blow. "If I had, I never would have asked you out in the first place." The color drained from Chloe's face. She looked as if he had slapped her. "So, I was just a placeholder," she whispered, her voice cracking. "A second choice? Someone to pass the time with until Audrey became available." He stood up, wincing in pain. "Just leave it alone, Chloe. You're a monster," she said, her voice filled with a quiet, venomous rage. "I hate you." She stormed out of the room, brushing past me in the hallway without a word. She stopped at my desk. "You know what?" she said, her voice shaking with anger. "You should have told your boyfriend to hit him harder. Maybe then he wouldn't have a mouth left to spew his poison." "It's still not enough." I just looked at her, my heart aching for her. "I'm so sorry, Chloe." "Don't be," she said, a bitter smile on her lips. "This is for the best. I'm done. I'm not going to fight for a man who doesn't want me." She took a deep breath. "Just be happy, Audrey. You deserve it." Meanwhile, Damien had returned to his mansion to find Isabel sitting in the living room, reading a book as if she were the lady of the manor. "You're back," she said, putting the book down. "We need to talk," he said, his voice devoid of warmth. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Damien," she said, ignoring him and launching into a prepared speech. "I've been selfish. I've been so focused on my career that I've neglected you. I'm so sorry. From now on, things are going to be different. I'm not taking any more roles. I'm going to stay home, and I'm going to be the partner you deserve. I'm going to take care of you." He just looked at her, his expression unreadable. "It's too late for that, Isabel." "It's not," she insisted, her voice rising with a desperate edge. "I'm willing to give up everything for you, for us. Isn't that what you want? Think how happy my father would be." She was playing her trump card, the ghost of the man he owed everything to. But it wouldn't work. Not anymore. "Isabel," he said, his voice flat and final. "I'm in love with someone else." Her carefully constructed composure shattered. For a moment, she just stared at him, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then, she recovered, a brittle, fake smile plastered on her face. "Oh, the weather is so stuffy today, isn't it?" she said, fanning herself with her hand. "You should go take a shower, freshen up. I'll go see if Maria has started dinner." She practically fled the room, unable to face the truth. Damien watched her go, then walked over to the fireplace, where a large framed portrait of her father hung. He stared up at the kind, smiling face of his mentor, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. He was trapped between the past and the future, between a promise he couldn't break and a love he couldn't deny. From that day on, Isabel became a permanent fixture in the house. She was always there, a beautiful, silent ghost haunting the halls. She was a constant, smiling reminder of his obligation, a living, breathing barrier between him and the life he wanted with me. She would cook for him, tell him stories about their childhood, about the times he and her father had spent together. It was a subtle, insidious form of emotional warfare. She was trying to remind him of his debt, to guilt him into staying. One evening, at dinner, she started reminiscing. "Do you remember that time we snuck out to get fried chicken, and we got caught in the rain?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with forced nostalgia. "I fell and scraped my knee, and you carried me all the way home on your back. We were soaked, but we laughed the whole way. Dad was so mad, but he was just worried. He always loved you like a son, you know." Damien just nodded, pushing his food around his plate. "If we could go back," she continued, her voice growing soft and wistful, "I wouldn't be an actress. I'd stay here. I'd marry you. That was always my dream, you know. I got distracted. But I'm not distracted anymore, Damien. I'm ready to make that dream come true. Please, give me another chance." He finally looked at her, his eyes filled with a weary pity. "Isabel, you can't turn back time. We're different people now. I have my life, and you have yours. You need to let this go." "I can't," she cried, her voice breaking. "I love you. I can't live without you." "You say you love me," he said, his voice suddenly hard, "but you sleep with other men, your directors, your co-stars. Any handsome man who gives you a second glance, you end up in a hotel room with. I have proof, Isabel, photos, videos. So don't talk to me about love. Don't try to manipulate me with your father's memory." He stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "I will always be your brother. I will always take care of you. That is how I will honor my promise to your father. But I will never, ever be your husband. You need to accept that." He walked out, leaving her alone at the long, empty dining table. The mask of the doting fiancé fell away, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. He had rejected her, he had shamed her, and she was not going to take it lying down. She knew what she had to do. She had to eliminate the competition. She had to get rid of me, and she didn't care what it took. Isabel sat alone in the vast, silent dining room, the remnants of her failed emotional ambush growing cold on the porcelain plates. The grief was gone, burned away by the clean, sharp flame of rage. He had chosen another woman, a nobody. After everything her family had done for him, he had discarded her like she was nothing. "Fine," she whispered to the empty room. "If I can't have you, no one will." She found Tung in the staff lounge. Tung was one of Damien's younger men, loyal and earnest, with a boyish face that made him look younger than his 24 years. He'd been taken in by Isabel's father as a teenager, and he idolized both Damien and Isabel, viewing them as a sort of surrogate older brother and sister. He was utterly blind to Isabel's darker nature. "Maria," Isabel called out, her voice artfully distressed. Could you bring me a bottle of wine? Tung stood up immediately. Maria just stepped out. Miss Isabel, can I get it for you? Oh, Tung, you're a lifesaver, she said, managing a weak, grateful smile. He returned a moment later with a bottle of expensive red wine and 2 glasses. Sit with me, she said, her voice soft and heavy with sadness. Pour yourself a glass. I don't want to drink alone. Of course, he said, his brow furrowed with concern as he sat down opposite her. He poured the wine, his movements respectful and careful. How long have you been with us now, Tung? She asked, swirling the dark liquid in her glass. 7 years, ma'am. Mr. Chen, your father, he brought me here when I was 17. 7 years, she mused. Time flies. You've been so loyal. She reached into her purse and pulled out a thick wad of cash, pushing it across the table towards him. This is for you. A bonus. He recoiled as if the money were hot. Oh, no, Miss Isabel. I couldn't. You and Mr. Damien. You've already done so much for me. I could never repay you. Take it, she insisted, her voice hardening slightly. Don't make me angry. I'll have you fired if you don't. Reluctantly, he took the money, his face flushed with a mixture of gratitude and embarrassment. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Now, drink with me, she said, her smile returning. I'm so miserable. They clinked glasses. Tung, ever the loyal soldier, was deeply concerned. What's wrong, Miss Isabel? You seem so sad. I'm heartbroken, she sighed, dabbing at a non-existent tear with the back of her hand. After all these years, Damien doesn't love me. Did you know he has another woman? Tung looked uncomfortable. He knew, of course. Everyone on staff knew about me. I want to know who she is, Isabel continued, her voice a convincing imitation of a woman wronged. What's her name? Where does she live? What does she have that I don't? I'm not going to cause any trouble, I promise. I need to see her. For my own peace of mind. To understand why he chose her. Tung was a simple man. He saw a woman in pain. A woman he respected and admired. And his instinct was to help. He didn't see the manipulation, the cold calculation in her eyes. He only saw her tears. Her name is Audrey, he said softly. She's a loan analyst at Viridian Trust Bank. An analyst? Isabel scoffed. He left me for a glorified bank teller. And I can give you her address, Tung offered, his desire to comfort her overriding his duty to Damien. But please, you have to promise you won't do anything to hurt her. The boss. He really cares about her. I promise, Isabel said, placing a hand over her heart. I just want to talk to her, woman to woman. He gave her my address. He gave her the keys to my life, and he had no idea he was handing her a weapon. As he poured her another glass of wine, she was already formulating a plan. In her mind, the pieces were moving into place. She had found her target. I have you now. You little bitch, she thought, taking a long, slow sip of wine. You just wait. I'll send you to the 7th circle of hell. While my fate was being decided over a bottle of Merlot, my life was blissfully unaware, continuing its upward trajectory. My parents had decided to fulfill a lifelong dream and open a small, late-night congee and noodle soup stall in a bustling downtown market. It was a humble little place, but they poured their hearts into it, and to everyone's surprise, it was an instant success. The hours were long, and after my day at the bank, I would go to the stall to help them out, washing dishes and taking orders until around 10 o'clock, when I would walk the few blocks back to my parents' house. Damien, who was away on a week-long business trip to the Midwest, was not happy about this arrangement. You're walking home alone at 10 o'clock at night, he'd said over the phone, his voice tight with concern. Absolutely not, Damien. It's a 5-minute walk. It's a safe neighborhood. I'll be fine. No, I'm not taking any chances. And so, every night at 9:55, Titus and his silent partner would appear at the soup stall. They would sit at a small table, awkwardly sipping tea, their imposing presence a stark contrast to the cozy, bustling atmosphere, until I was ready to leave. Then they would flank me, walking me home in a silent, professional formation. Once I was safely inside, the door locked behind me, they would disappear back into the night. It was ridiculous. It was over the top, but it also made me feel safe, cared for. This is completely unnecessary, I told them one night as we walked down the quiet street. The boss has enemies, Titus said, his eyes scanning the rooftops. People who are jealous of his success. He's concerned they might try to get to him through you. Ensuring your safety is our top priority. I couldn't argue with that, so I let them walk me home. These two stone-faced guardians sent by a man who was, against all my better judgment, starting to feel like my own personal guardian angel. Every night before I went to sleep, he would call. We would talk for hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about his day, the deals he was making, the tedious meetings he had to sit through. I told him about my day, about the funny customer at the soup stall, about my mother's latest scheme to redecorate the living room. It was easy, comfortable. It felt more real than anything I had ever felt with Leo. I was falling for him, hard and fast, and the feeling was both exhilarating and terrifying. One Sunday morning, I was sleeping in late. Damien was still out of town, and without my mother's 5:30 wake-up calls, she was too busy with the stall to torture me now. I was enjoying the peace. Bam, bam, bam. My mother was at my door. Audrey, get up. Someone's here to see you. Who is it? I groaned. I don't know. Some young man in a suit. He says he's been waiting for you for an hour. I threw on a robe and stumbled downstairs. It was Tung. He was standing awkwardly in our entryway, looking deeply uncomfortable. Tung? I said, confused. What are you doing here? He bowed his head slightly. Good morning, Miss Audrey. Mr. Damien sent me. He held out a single sleek black key. He asked me to give you this. A key? To what? His new house, ma'am. He's purchased a new property. He would like you to be the first to see it. A new house? He hadn't said anything to me about a new house. Tung drove me to a beautiful, tree-lined street in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. He stopped in front of a magnificent brownstone, a classic, elegant building that exuded old-world charm. He bought this? I asked, my voice a whisper. It was several million, ma'am, Tung said, as if commenting on the weather. Please, don't worry about the cost. He led me inside. The house was breathtaking. It had been fully renovated and furnished, a perfect blend of modern luxury and classic design. It was filled with light, with comfortable, beautiful furniture, with art on the walls. It was a home, and, I noticed with a jolt, it was decorated in the exact color palette: cool blues, soft grays, and warm woods that I had told him was my favorite during one of our late-night phone calls. He had been listening, really listening. My own phone rang. It was him. So, he said, his voice a warm caress through the speaker. Do you like it, Damien? It's perfect, I stammered. But why? Why did you buy a new house? For us, he said simply. I think it's time we started preparing for our future, don't you? For our wedding. My heart stopped. Wedding? Are you ready to marry me, Audrey? He asked, his voice soft, but with an undercurrent of unshakable confidence. I was speechless. This was all moving so fast. A few weeks ago, I was crying over another man. Now, this incredible, complicated, overwhelming man was talking about marriage. I need to think about it, I whispered. Think fast, he said, a smile in his voice. I'm not getting any younger. We talked for a few more minutes, and I promised him that my mother would have a home-cooked meal waiting for him the moment he got back. I hung up the phone, my mind reeling. I walked through the beautiful, empty rooms of what was apparently my future home, a dizzying mix of joy and fear swirling inside me. I was so lost in my own happy bubble that I didn't see the storm that was gathering on the horizon. A storm named Isabel. That night, at the soup stall, my mother was peeling mangoes. These are delicious, she said. Want one, sweetie? Ooh, yes, please, I said. I took a slice and bit into it. It was sweet and juicy and perfect. I ate another and another. Wow, slow down, my mother laughed. I can't peel them fast enough. I only bought 4 pounds. They're just so good, I said, my mouth full. I can't stop. Suddenly, a strange thought occurred to her. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. You know, you've been eating a lot lately, non-stop. What happened to your diet? I don't know, I said with a shrug. I'm just always hungry. My mouth feels bored if I'm not chewing on something. Always hungry, she mused. Then her eyes widened. Wait a minute. When was your last period? The half-eaten slice of mango fell from my hand. I hadn't even thought about it. My life had been such a chaotic whirlwind. I hadn't been paying attention. I pulled out my phone and opened my tracking app. My blood ran cold. I was 15 days late. I looked up at my mother, my face pale, my eyes wide with a dawning, terrifying realization. Mom, I whispered, my hand instinctively going to my stomach. I think I might be pregnant. My mother's reaction was instantaneous. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock, then disbelief, then a dawning, unadulterated joy. Pregnant, she whispered, the word hanging in the steamy air of the soup stall like a prayer. I couldn't answer. I just stared at the calendar on my phone. The glowing red circle around the date my period should have started mocking me. 15 days. An eternity. I have to go buy something, I stammered, scrambling to my feet. Audrey, wait, my mother called after me as I rushed out of the stall. We're in the middle of a conversation. I'll be right back, I yelled over my shoulder, my mind a chaotic storm of panic and hope. I ran to the nearest 24-hour pharmacy, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I bought 3 different brands of pregnancy tests, just to be sure. Back in the tiny bathroom of my parents' house, my hands trembled as I fumbled with the packaging. I followed the instructions, set the 3 little plastic sticks on the edge of the sink, and waited. It was the longest 3 minutes of my life. And then, one by one, they appeared. 2 lines, bright, bold, undeniable pink lines. On all 3 tests, I sank down onto the bath mat, a choked sob escaping my lips. Pregnant. I was pregnant. A tiny life, a tiny secret, was growing inside me. For a moment, the world tilted, the sheer, overwhelming reality of it threatening to swallow me whole. Then, a slow, profound wave of joy washed over me, so powerful it took my breath away. I was going to be a mother. Damien was going to be a father. I placed a hand on my still flat stomach, a fierce, protective love blooming in my chest. Hello, little one, I thought, a tear of pure happiness rolling down my cheek. Your daddy is going to be so happy to meet you. I wanted to call him right then, to shout the news from the rooftops. But I stopped myself. This wasn't news to be delivered over a crackly phone line. This was something to be shared in person, to be whispered in the quiet of our new home. I would wait. I would wait for him to come back, and I would give him the greatest surprise of his life. The thought of the look on his face when I told him was enough to make my heart sing. Life, for the next few days, was a beautiful, secret dream. I was floating on a cloud of my own happiness. My parents were so busy with the booming success of the soup stall that they didn't have time to press me further about my sudden dash to the pharmacy. My secret was safe, but across town, a different kind of secret was festering, a dark and poisonous one. Isabel sat in a sleek, white convertible parked across the street from my parents' soup stall, her eyes hidden behind a pair of oversized designer sunglasses. Beside her sat a man I didn't know, a man whose loyalty she had purchased not with money, but with something far more valuable, false hope. His name was Adrian, and he was one of Damien's lower-level enforcers. Isabel had been cultivating him for weeks, feeding him promises of power and affection, turning him into her own personal attack dog. "So that's her parents' little hobby," Isabel said, her voice dripping with disdain as she watched my mother serve a customer. "Yes, ma'am," Adrian replied. "It's surprisingly popular. The soup is supposed to be very good." "Good, is it?" she mused, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "Well, let's go have a taste." "Ma'am, are you sure? What if she recognizes you?" Isabel laughed, a short, sharp sound, devoid of any humor. "Darling, she thinks I'm a movie star. She doesn't think I'm the woman whose life she's trying to steal. Besides, we need to be quick. Damien's 2 pet gorillas will be here at 10 to escort Princess Perfect home. I don't want them seeing us." They got out of the car and walked into the stall, taking a small table in the corner. Adrian, looking deeply uncomfortable, ordered 2 bowls of shrimp congee. Isabel watched me as I wiped down tables, her eyes cold and analytical. "This is her," she thought, a surge of indignant rage washing over her. "This plain, mousy little girl. She has nothing. No style, no grace, no fire. How could he choose her over me?" I brought the 2 steaming bowls of congee to their table. "Here you go," I said with a polite smile. The beautiful, glamorous woman looked up at me, a strange, knowing smile on her lips. "Thank you, Audrey." I froze. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "Oh no," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "I just heard your mother call your name. It's a lovely name." "Oh, right. Well, enjoy your meal," I said, backing away, a strange sense of unease creeping up my spine. There was something about her, something familiar and unsettling. Isabel took a spoonful of the congee and wrinkled her nose in disgust. "I don't understand it," she whispered to Adrian. "She works in a bank, and at night she serves peasant food. What does he see in her?" I believe she's an analyst, ma'am, at Viridian Trust Bank." "An analyst," she repeated, the word a curse. "Well, it's time to analyze her breaking point." She pushed the barely touched bowl away. "Let's go. I'm done here." As they got up to leave, Isabel stopped at the counter where I was taking a payment. "That will be $14, I said. She handed me a 20. "Keep the change." Her eyes, a startling shade of green, met mine. "You're free in a few minutes, aren't you? I'd like to talk to you, privately." "Talk to me? About what?" "Let's just say we have a mutual friend." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm Isabel, Damien's girlfriend." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Girlfriend. The word hit me like a physical blow. No, it couldn't be. Damien had been so clear. He hadn't been with anyone in years. This woman, she had to be lying. I'll be at the daily grind across the street, she said, her smile never wavering. I'll wait for you. She turned and walked out, leaving me standing there, my mind reeling, my heart a block of ice in my chest. My hands were shaking as I sat down opposite her in the brightly lit coffee shop. She looked perfectly calm, sipping a cappuccino, the very picture of elegance and sophistication. I, in my food-stained apron, felt like a frumpy, provincial child. So, I began, my voice trembling slightly. You're Damien's girlfriend? She raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. You sound surprised. Did he not mention me? He said he wasn't seeing anyone. Oh, the poor darling, she sighed, a look of theatrical sadness on her face. He's just confused, lonely. You see, our relationship is a bit complicated. I'm an actress. I travel a lot. I'm away for months at a time, on location. It's hard on him. I don't blame him for seeking comfort elsewhere. I blame myself. I've been so focused on my career, I've neglected the most important thing in my life. She was a phenomenal actress. Every word, every gesture was perfectly calibrated for maximum emotional impact. She was weaving a story, a beautiful, tragic tapestry of lies, and I was getting tangled in it. Damien and I have been together for 10 years, she said, her voice dropping to a nostalgic whisper. We grew up together. His father was an orphan, you know, penniless. My father took him in, treated him like a son, helped him build his empire from nothing. We were inseparable. We promised each other forever. She pulled out her phone and showed me pictures of her and a much younger Damien, smiling, laughing, looking carefree and deeply in love. Pictures from proms, from vacations, from family gatherings, a decade of shared history, of a life I knew nothing about. Then I became famous, she continued, her voice thick with regret, and I got swept up in it all. The films, the travel, the fame. I was gone so much, and he was so lonely. He told me just the other day that he'd met someone. He said he was fond of you. He blamed me, of course, for not being there, and he's right. I pushed him away. I pushed him into your arms. She was crying now, real tears streaming down her perfect face. My heart ached for her. This wasn't a villain. This was a woman in pain, a woman fighting for the love of her life. I quit my job, she said, her voice choked with sobs. I turned down the biggest role of my career. I came home to fix this, to fight for him. I told him I would never leave his side again. And he said he would think about it. He said he needed time. She reached across the table and took my hands. Her skin was cold as ice. Audrey, she pleaded, her green eyes boring into mine. Please, give him back to me. You've only known him for 2 months. 2 months, you can forget him. But me, 10 years, an entire lifetime. I can't live without him. If I lose him, I'll have nothing left. Please, don't destroy our love. Don't take him away from me. The world was spinning. 10 years, he had lied to me. Everything was a lie. He had used me, a temporary distraction to fill the void while his real love was away. The new house, the talk of marriage, it was all a fantasy. And the baby, my hand flew to my stomach. Oh God, the baby, my tiny secret, the source of so much joy just an hour ago, was now the anchor of a devastating, impossible choice. Isabel, seeing my hesitation, pressed her advantage. I have money, Audrey, a lot of money. I can give you anything you want. A new house for your parents, a chain of soup stalls. Just name your price. Just Give him back. Then, in a move of pure, calculated genius, she slid off her chair and knelt on the floor in front of me, in the middle of the crowded coffee shop. "I'm begging you," she sobbed, clinging to my knees. "Please, have mercy." Everyone was staring. I was frozen, trapped in her web of lies, my own world shattering around me. I had to choose my future, my child's future, or the happiness of this broken, desperate woman who had been with him for a decade. How could I be the person who destroyed a 10-year love story? The clock on the wall struck 10. I knew I had to go. Isabel stood up, wiping her tears away, her face a mask of tragic dignity. "Think about it," she whispered, and then she was gone. I walked home in a daze, my mind a war zone. I didn't know what to believe, what to do. My life, which had just started to feel so full of hope and promise, had just been reduced to a pile of ashes. Back in her convertible, Isabel wiped the last of the crocodile tears from her eyes, her expression instantly transforming from tragic to triumphant. "How was my performance?" she asked Adrian, who was sitting in the driver's seat, looking stunned. "Ma'am," he said, his voice filled with awe. "That was incredible. I almost believed you myself. You are a true artist." "6 years of training, darling," she said, reapplying her lipstick in the rearview mirror. "It comes in handy. Now, the next phase begins. We have 8 days until Damien gets back. That should be more than enough time to make sure our little problem disappears permanently." "And if she doesn't agree to leave?" Adrian asked. Isabel snapped her lipstick shut, her eyes glinting in the dim light of the car. "Then," she said, her voice as cold and sharp as a shard of glass, "we kill her." That night, sleep was a stranger. I tossed and turned, Isabel's words echoing in my mind. Her tear-streaked face burned into my memory. 10 years. It was a number that felt like a physical weight on my chest, crushing the air from my lungs. Every happy memory I had with Damien, every whispered promise, was now tainted, poisoned by the possibility that it was all a lie. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. His name glowed on the screen. For a moment, I just stared at it, my heart a tangle of love and betrayal. I ignored the first call, and the second, and the third. On the 5th, my resolve crumbled. I answered, my voice small and tight. "Hello, Audrey? What's wrong? I've been calling. Is everything okay?" His voice, usually a source of comfort, now grated on my raw nerves. "Why were you calling?" I asked, my tone cold. "What do you mean, why was I calling?" "I call you every night," he said, a note of confusion in his voice. "Audrey, you sound strange. What happened?" "You have a girlfriend," I blurted out, the accusation sharp and bitter. "You've had a girlfriend for 10 years. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you lie to me?" There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, a low, dangerous growl. "Isabel, she found you." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "So, you admit it. Audrey, listen to me," he said, his voice urgent. "Whatever she told you, it's a lie. She's twisting things. There is nothing between us. Not anymore. Not for a very long time. She showed me pictures of you two, together, happy, pictures from years ago. Audrey, you have to trust me. She's manipulating you. Please, just tell me what she said. Tell me everything." "I don't want to talk about it," I said, my voice breaking. "I don't want to talk to you." I hung up, then turned off my phone, throwing it into a corner of the room. I buried my face in my pillow and finally let the tears come, hot and silent. In his hotel room 1,000 miles away, Damien stared at his phone, a cold fury building inside him. He immediately called Tung. "I'm listening," Tung answered, his voice alert. "Anything unusual at the house tonight?" Damien demanded. "No, sir. All quiet." "What about Isabel? Was she home all day?" Tung hesitated. "Well, she was here most of the day, sir. But she did go out for a few hours this evening. Just got back about an hour ago." "And where did she go?" She said she was going to a friend's birthday party, sir." Damien's knuckles turned white as he gripped his phone. A birthday party. The lie was so blatant, so insulting. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that Isabel had gone to see me, and he knew she wouldn't stop there. His mind raced. He made a series of rapid-fire calls. First, to a different, more discreet operative named Ethan. "I need eyes on Isabel," he commanded. 24/7. "I want to know where she goes, who she talks to, what she eats for breakfast. And I don't want anyone, especially Tung, to know about it. Am I clear?" "Crystal, sir," Ethan replied. Next, he called Titus, the security detail on Audrey. "Double it. I want her watched around the clock. Don't let her out of your sight. I have a bad feeling about this." He hung up, but the feeling of unease wouldn't go away. He paced his hotel room, a caged tiger. What had Isabel said to me? What lies had she spun? He knew her talent for manipulation, for playing the victim. He had to get back. He had to fix this. Back at the mansion, Isabel was setting her own deadly plans in motion. She made a call to an old, unsavory acquaintance from her wilder days. "Hello," a gravelly voice answered. "It's me," Isabel said. "I need a favor. You remember your friend, Ken? The one who's good with electronics? Ken. He just got out of prison. Did 6 years for building and selling homemade explosives." "Perfect," Isabel said, a cold smile on her lips. "I have a job for him. I need 2 bombs. Small, but powerful." "How much would that cost?" "Bombs? Isabel, what the hell are you planning?" "I need to demolish a small restaurant," she said, her voice chillingly casual. "I'll give you $100,000 to make the introduction, and I'll give him $200,000 for the devices. I need them within 24 hours. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. The sum of money was staggering. "He's not gonna ask questions. For that kind of money, darling, he can believe I'm redecorating. Just make the call." The deal was made. Isabel knew Ken would take the job. He was a genius, a prodigy of destruction, and he was desperate for cash. Money was her superpower. She had inherited a fortune from her father, a sum so vast that a few $100,000 was like pocket change. With it, she could buy anything: loyalty, silence, and, if necessary, death. Her plan was simple and brutal. 1 bomb would be for the soup stall, a fiery end for my parents and their humble dream. The other would be for the car that Titus and his partner used to escort me. A rolling coffin designed to take out me and my protectors in one clean, devastating blast. 5 lives extinguished, all to clear a path back to a man who didn't love her. She saw it not as murder, but as a necessary pruning. But first, she needed to ensure the loyalty of her own pawn. She found Adrian in the gym, working out his aggression on a heavy bag. She had already bought his service with money and promises. Now, she would buy his soul. She walked up behind him, placing her hands on his sweaty shoulders, her voice a seductive purr. "You're working so hard," she said. He stopped, turning to face her, his chest heaving. "Just clearing my head, ma'am." "Adrian," she said, her eyes locking with his. "You know how much I trust you. You're the only one I can rely on." She leaned in and kissed him, A long, slow kiss that was both a promise and a command. He was so stunned. He just stood there, frozen. "I need you to do something for me," she whispered against his lips. "Something very important, and if anyone asks, if anything goes wrong, it was all you. You will take the fall. For me." He was completely under her spell. He would have walked into fire for her. Planting a couple of bombs was nothing. The next day, Isabel called me again. "We need to talk," she said, her voice firm. "One last time. The same coffee shop. And Audrey, come alone. If Damien finds out about this, he'll think I'm harassing you, and it will only make things worse." I agreed. I needed answers. I needed to look her in the eye and know if she was telling the truth. But getting away from my two shadows was a problem. Titus and his partner were parked outside the bank, their presence a constant, reassuring, and now incredibly inconvenient reminder of Damien's concern. I needed a distraction. I found Sarah in the break room. "Sarah, I need a huge favor," I said, my voice low and urgent. "Anything for the girl with the macaron connection," she said with a wink. "See those two guys in the black car out front? The men in black? Hard to miss them. Your personal bodyguards, right? The whole office is dying of jealousy. I need to get away from them for an hour, without them knowing. Can you distract them?" Sarah's eyes lit up. A challenge, and a juicy piece of gossip. It was her dream come true. "Say no more," she said, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. "Operation Ditch the Guards is a go." She sashayed out to the front of the bank, a picture of damsel in distress helplessness. "Oh, excuse me, you two big, strong men," she called out. "I have this terribly heavy box of printer paper inside, and my back is just killing me. Could you possibly give me a hand?" Titus and his partner exchanged a weary look, but they were gentlemen, if reluctant ones. They followed Sarah inside. The moment their backs were turned, I slipped out a side door and disappeared down the street. I arrived at the coffee shop, my heart pounding. Isabel was already there, looking as perfect and poised as ever. "You came alone," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, now, I want the truth, Isabel. All of it." She dropped the sad, fragile act. Her eyes were hard, her voice cold. The truth is you're a naive little fool, and your little fairy tale is over. He told me you were lying," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "He told me there's nothing between you two, and you believe him." She laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "Of course you do. You're so blinded by his money and his fancy house that you can't see what he really is. And what is he? He's a monster, Audrey. A cold-blooded killer. Do you have any idea how he built his empire? Not with hard work, with violence, with intimidation. People who cross him, they disappear. Every year, a few more names are added to the list. That's the man you think you're in love with. A dangerous, violent sociopath." "You're wrong," I whispered, shaking my head. "He's not like that, isn't he? You're his pretty little pet, his doll in a glass case. He controls your every move. You have bodyguards following you everywhere. Is that freedom, Audrey? Is that love? Or are you just his prisoner, living in a gilded cage?" Her words were like tiny, poisoned darts, each one hitting a secret, unspoken fear I had been trying to ignore. The loss of my independence, the feeling of being constantly watched. "He's just trying to protect me," I insisted, though my voice lacked conviction. "He's trying to own you," she sneered. "And when he gets bored of you, he'll throw you away like an old toy, and there will be nothing you can do about it." "You're just saying all this because you're jealous," I shot back, my anger finally flaring. You're a bitter, selfish woman, and now I see why he doesn't love you. No one could love someone as hateful as you." Her mask of composure finally cracked. A look of pure, murderous rage flashed in her eyes. "You've just signed your death warrant, you little bitch," she hissed. "I gave you a chance to walk away. You should have taken it." She stood up, throwing a few bills on the table. "Enjoy your last day on earth," she said, and then she was gone. I sat there, trembling, her final words hanging in the air like a death sentence. I didn't believe her. I couldn't. It was just an empty threat, the desperate lashing out of a woman scorned. But as I walked back to the bank, a cold knot of fear tightened in my stomach. A fear that I had just made a very, very powerful enemy, and that the life I was carrying inside me was in more danger than I could possibly imagine. As I left the coffee shop, Isabel made another call, this one to Adrian. "It's time," she said, her voice a low, chilling whisper. "Put the bomb in the car. I want her dead by sundown." I walked back to the bank in a haze, Isabel's venomous words still ringing in my ears. When Titus and his partner saw me approaching from the street, having successfully evaded them, a look of pure panic crossed their faces. "Miss Audrey," Titus exclaimed, rushing towards me. "Where have you been?" "We thought I went for a walk," I snapped, still reeling from my encounter. "I needed some air. I'm a grown woman. I don't need a babysitter." "With all due respect, ma'am," he said, his voice tight with controlled frustration. The boss's orders were explicit. "Please, don't do that again. If anything were to happen to you." "Nothing is going to happen to me," I said, brushing past them and stalking back into the office. But Isabel's threat, "Enjoy your last day on earth," echoed in my mind, a chilling counterpoint to my own defiant words. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a fog of anger and anxiety. I was furious with Isabel for her cruelty, furious with Damien for putting me in this position, and furious with myself for feeling so trapped. Isabel's words about me being a doll in a glass case had hit a nerve. She was right. I was losing my freedom, my autonomy, and I resented it. While I was stewing in my cubicle, Adrian was carrying out his orders. Under the cover of a delivery van, parked next to the black sedan, he quickly and expertly attached the small, powerful bomb to the undercarriage of the vehicle. He set the timer. It was a simple device, rigged to detonate 10 minutes after the engine started, giving them enough time to get a few blocks away from the bank before the car, and everyone in it was vaporized. At 5 o'clock, I packed up my things, my mood still stormy. As I walked out of the bank, Titus and his partner fell into their usual formation beside me. "Miss Audrey," Titus said, gesturing towards the waiting car. "If you're ready." But I had made a decision. I was done being ferried around like a precious piece of cargo. I was done being a prisoner in a gilded cage. "No," I said, stopping on the sidewalk. "I'm not getting in." They exchanged a weary, exasperated look. "Ma'am, please don't make this difficult," Titus sighed. "I'm not being difficult," I said, my voice rising. "I'm taking back my life. I'm going to take the bus, or walk, or call a taxi. But I am not getting in that car. I am not your responsibility anymore. You can go back to Damien and tell him I quit." "Quit what, ma'am?" the silent partner asked, speaking for the first time. His voice was a low, gravelly rumble. "I quit being his, whatever I am, his pet project, his protected asset. I'm a person, and I want my freedom back." "Ma'am, we can't let you do that," Titus said, his voice hardening. "Our orders are to ensure your safety. Now, please, get in the car." "No," I shouted, turning to walk away. He grabbed my arm. It wasn't rough, but it was firm, a grip of steel that I couldn't break. "Let go of me," I yelled, slapping his hand away. The silent partner moved to my other side, trying to gently herd me towards the car. I panicked. I felt trapped, cornered. I reacted without thinking, driving my foot hard into his shin. He grunted in pain but didn't let go. "Miss Audrey, stop," Titus pleaded, his professional calm finally cracking. "You're making a scene. I don't care." I screamed, and I started to run. It was a foolish, desperate act. I was pregnant, out of shape, and wearing heels. They caught me in less than a block. Each of them took one of my arms, their grips now unyielding, and began to half drag, half carry me back towards the car. My protests and struggles ignored. "Please, Miss Audrey," Titus begged, his voice strained as I kicked and squirmed. "Just get in the car. We'll take you home. You don't have to see the boss. Just let us do our job." "No, let me go. Let me go." We were about 20 feet from the car, a chaotic, undignified tableau of flailing limbs and gritted teeth on a busy city street. And then the world exploded. A deafening roar ripped through the air. A wave of heat and force threw us to the ground. The car, the sleek black sedan that had been my prison, was engulfed in a ball of fire and twisted metal. Shrapnel rained down around us, and the sound of shattering glass echoed from the surrounding buildings. For a moment, there was just stunned, ringing silence. People were screaming. Car alarms were blaring. I lay on the pavement, my ears ringing, my mind completely blank with shock. Titus was the first to react. He scrambled to his feet, his face pale, his eyes wide with horror. "A bomb," he whispered, staring at the burning wreckage. "Someone put a bomb in the car." He looked at me, then at his partner, a dawning, terrifying realization on his face. They weren't trying to kill us. They were trying to kill her. He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. "Get the boss on the line. Now." The last thing I remember before the world went black was the acrid smell of smoke and the terrifying, beautiful sight of the flames dancing against the evening sky. When I woke up, I was in a place I recognized, the master bedroom of the new house, Damien's house, our house. My head was pounding, but other than that, I was unharmed. Titus and his partner were standing guard by the door. "You're awake," Titus said, a look of profound relief on his face. "Are you okay?" I sat up, my mind still foggy. The bomb." "You're safe now, Miss Audrey," he said. "We're all safe." The full weight of what had happened, of what had almost happened, crashed down on me. I had been seconds away from being blown to pieces, and my baby. A new, cold terror seized me, a terror far worse than the explosion. I had to tell him. If something happened to me, he had to know. "I need to see Damien," I said, my voice shaking. "Where is he?" "He's on his way back. His plane lands in an hour." "Is it safe here?" "What if they try again?" "This is the safest place in the city, ma'am," Titus assured me. "And your parents are here. The boss had them brought here as soon as he heard. They're downstairs. My parents. They were in danger too. All because of me." The guilt was a physical weight, crushing me. In her own lavish prison, Isabel was not having a good day. "What do you mean? She's alive," she shrieked at Adrian, throwing a crystal vase against the wall, where it shattered into 1,000 pieces. "How is that possible?" She wouldn't get in the car," Adrian stammered, cowering before her fury. "She threw a tantrum, tried to run away. They were still on the sidewalk when the bomb went off. It was a technical miscalculation. I'm sorry, ma'am." "Sorry?" she screamed. "Sorry doesn't cut it. Where is she now?" "We don't know. She, her parents, and the 2 bodyguards. They've all disappeared, vanished. We've checked her house, The soup stall. Nothing. Find her, Isabel commanded, her face a mask of rage. Tung just called. Damien is on his way back from the airport. If he finds out I was behind this. I understand, ma'am, Adrian said, his face pale. I'll take care of it. No one will ever trace it back to you. You'd better, she said, her voice a low, menacing hiss. Or that second bomb I had made. I'll have it delivered to your mother's house. Understood. He understood. He fled, leaving her to pace her room like a caged animal, her perfect plan in tatters. The moment Damien's car pulled up to the house, I ran out, throwing myself into his arms. He held me tight, his face buried in my hair, his body trembling slightly. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Audrey. I should have been here. I never should have left you. It's okay, I sobbed, clinging to him. I'm okay. We're okay. He gently pushed me back, his hands on my shoulders, his eyes scanning me for any injuries. You're sure you're all right? I'm fine. But, Damien, there's something I have to tell you. Something important. What is it? He asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Titus told me you were trying to tell him something before you passed out. I took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. His face went slack with shock. He just stared at me for a long moment, his stormy gray eyes wide and unblinking. What? I'm pregnant, I repeated, a watery smile on my lips. Almost 2 months. We're having a baby. A slow, brilliant smile spread across his face, a smile of such pure, unadulterated joy that it took my breath away. He let out a whoop of laughter, lifting me off my feet and spinning me around. A baby? He shouted. We're having a baby. I'm going to be a father. He set me down gently, his hands cradling my face. Thank you, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for this, Audrey. I love you so much. He kissed me, a deep, passionate kiss filled with love and relief, and the promise of a future I had almost been denied. After a moment, he pulled away, his expression hardening. The joy was replaced by a cold, deadly calm. Stay here, he said. Rest. I have to go take care of some business. You're leaving again? I'll be back soon, he promised, kissing my forehead. I just have to. Take out the trash. He walked back outside, where Titus was waiting. We have him, Titus said, his voice grim. Adrian, the guy who planted the bomb. He was hired by one of Isabel's men, a guy named Julian. Julian is a dead end. She's the one behind this, Damien said, his voice flat and cold. I know it. He looked at Titus. You and your men can deal with Adrian and Julian. Send them to the police. I'm going to go have a talk with Isabel. Sir, are you sure that's a good idea? Titus asked, a flicker of concern in his eyes. She's unstable. What if the house is booby-trapped? This is between me and her, Damien said. It's time to end this, once and for all. When he walked into the mansion, it was silent. He found Isabel in her bedroom, a bottle of whiskey in one hand, a glass in the other. Well, she said, her voice slurring slightly. Look what the cat dragged in. Come to celebrate my failure. She raised her glass. To Audrey, the bitch who lived. Let's have a drink. He walked into the room, his eyes scanning every corner. It's over, Isabel. Is it? She said with a bitter laugh. I don't think so. She gestured towards her open closet. There, nestled amongst her designer shoes, was the second bomb, a digital timer already counting down. 2 minutes, she said, a wild, triumphant look in her eyes. In 2 minutes, we'll be together, forever, just like you always promised my father. He lunged for the door, but it was already locked from the outside. You're insane, he breathed, staring at the timer. I am, she said, taking a long swallow of whiskey. You made me this way. 1 minute, 45 seconds. He didn't panic. His mind, always sharp, always analytical, assessed the situation. The door was a no-go. The bomb was bolted to the closet shelf, but there was a large plate glass window, and below it, the deep blue of the swimming pool. It was their only chance. He grabbed a heavy, ornate vanity chair and, with a roar of pure adrenaline, smashed it against the window. The glass shattered, exploding outwards. He didn't hesitate. He rushed to Isabel, who was now staring at him, her drunken bravado fading, replaced by a dawning fear. He threw her over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes and launched himself through the broken window. They hit the cold water of the pool just as the bomb detonated. The explosion was immense, a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the house. A third of the mansion collapsed in on itself, a plume of fire and smoke rising into the night sky. He dragged her, sputtering and coughing, to the edge of the pool. She stared at the wreckage of her home, of her life, her face a mask of stunned disbelief. Why? She choked out, shivering. Why did you save me? You should have let me die. He looked at her, and for the first time, there was no anger in his eyes, only a profound, weary sadness. Because I promised your father I would take care of you, he said, and my debt is now paid. He pulled her from the water. You tried to kill Audrey. You tried to kill me, but I'm not going to press charges. I'm not going to send you to jail. Why not? She sobbed. Because you're sick, Isabel. You need help. And because Audrey is pregnant, I'm going to be a father, and my child deserves to grow up without this poison, this hatred, in our lives. The words hit her harder than the explosion. Pregnant. The final, irrefutable proof that she had lost. The fight went out of her, replaced by a deep, shuddering wave of grief and regret. She finally broke, collapsing into sobs, the sound of a woman who had lost everything, most of all, herself. 6 months later, I was huge, not just pregnant, but spectacularly, massively pregnant. The doctor had given us another surprise. We were having twins, 2 boys. I was sitting on the sofa in our beautiful new home, trying to find a comfortable position, which was becoming an increasingly impossible task. Isabel was sitting on the floor beside me, patiently peeling an apple. Here, Audrey, she said, handing me a slice. You need to keep your strength up. She had changed. After the explosion, she had voluntarily checked into a high-end psychiatric facility. She spent months in therapy, confronting her demons, untangling the grief and rage that had almost consumed her. She had emerged, different, quieter, calmer. She had apologized to me, a real, heartfelt apology that I had accepted without hesitation. She now called me her sister, and she was already a ridiculously doting aunt to her 2 unborn nephews. No more apples, I groaned. If I eat another piece of fruit, I'm going to turn into one. Nonsense, she said, her voice firm but kind. You have to eat for 3. Think of the babies. Damien had been a rock, my constant source of strength and comfort. He had scaled back his work, delegating most of his responsibilities so he could spend more time with me, catering to my every whim, his hand always resting protectively on my belly. He was a ruthless businessman, a powerful king in his own world. But with me, with us, he was just a man, deeply and completely in love with his family. Our future was still an unwritten story, but for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't afraid. I was surrounded by a strange, complicated, but deeply loving family, and as I felt the flutter of 2 tiny lives kicking inside me, I knew that no matter what came next, We would face it together.